Yes, y'all. We are live. Another Saturday night shoot the breeze. I want to thank everyone who will be in attendance tonight. There's no one here now. I want to thank everyone who will participate and be on the panel. Shout out to Oni out there in the chat saying peace, peace, who's on the continent right now. You guys make sure check out Oni's book. Oni, drop your link in the chat so folks can purchase your latest book. I'm going to try to purchase it this coming week. So make sure to drop your link for me, please. Shout out to those people who will be participating on the panel tonight. Those of you that'll be in the chat, much respect to y'all. You know the deal. I like to come on here to let you guys know what we have in store tonight. Tonight's show, we're going to try to answer the question, what makes African American culture so popular across the world? We're going to look at a video that's intended for the kids, for them to keep dreaming. We're going to look at the first quote-unquote black leader of any European country, and should the black world celebrate it or not. We're going to look at a situation. Well, the prompt says either get it on camera or get it in writing. I'm not too sure what the story is there, but we'll check that out. And lastly, we'll look at Marianne Williamson, president contender or cult leader. So those are the topics we have in store tonight. What I'll do is I'll hit the intro for the show. I'll start the show officially. And on the other side, we will drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1, as well as introduce any and all of our panelists. So please stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Also, make sure to check out Brother Bakari's podcast. Check out the Forecast Radio, who's out there in the chat saying what's up. Make sure to check out Consider Cheek / Realm in the Bush as well. And, you know, the matron is doing those readings. I'm going to echo Buana's sentiment. This week, I'm going to donate. I'm going to hit the Cash App for the matron as well. You guys make sure to subscribe to her channel and hit the Cash App too. We got to change this mindset of having our people doing the work and they get nothing in return for it. Meanwhile, the grifters are getting all the benefits, all the rewards. We got to change that. Support the people who are doing the good work, and don't support those who are doing, the bad work. So make sure to support the matron and what she's doing. Let me welcome in my panelists tonight. First off, there's Oni. Oni, how are you this week? Oni, you're muted if you're talking. Well, there's Buana here as well. Buana, how are you this week?
I'm good, man. That's that Tanzanian Wi-Fi that Oni is on right now. But I'm good, Koku. I hope you good too. I hope Oni is good when he eventually decides to fix that Tanzanian Wi-Fi. But I'm good, brother.
Yeah, thanks for coming through. I'm good. Glad you came through. Shout out to Daily Affirmation by Pauline, who says good evening out there in the chat. Shout out to Trigger Happy 262 Plus. Shout out to KW Dawn 7, who says Sawabona. And I mentioned the forecast, and Oni earlier in the chat said peace as well. Oni said he gets his mic isn't plugged in, so I guess that's the reason for that. Let me know when you're back, Oni, and I'll introduce you on the panel. In the meantime, I dropped Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. Let's get right into it. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 says, what makes African American culture so popular across the world? What makes African American culture so popular across the world? This came with a video, of course, that takes us to Twitter. In particular, it takes us to the Art of Dialogue. This clip from Godfrey on Shannon Sharp's podcast. The captain said, yeah, we can hear you now.
All right, sorry, my fault.
Yeah. What was I saying now? Yeah, so this takes us to our dialogue on Twitter. The captain says Godfrey speaks on the myth that Africans don't like African Americans and says that everybody all over the world copies African Americans. So we'll watch the video, and on the other side, we'll officially introduce Oni and we'll discuss it.
In Africa, colonization, yeah. England, France. That's why you speak in French now. So I walk in and they say, so what you gonna do? Because Soul Plane was everybody was going, motherfucker, fuck that, fuck this shit. Yeah. I said, I got an idea. What if I play an African guy? They said, what? I'm gonna play an African dude because Snoop Dogg's already there. Right. Let him do all the motherfucking. Let me be the what is the problem? You know, right. And Black Africans and African Americans always butt heads anyway. Yeah. That would be a perfect dynamic. So I went in there. Well, you're Nigerian. You hate Shannon on me for what? No, why do we don't hate? That's some bullshit.
Nah, y'all do. Y'all be hating.
No, wait a minute.
Y'all be sneak tip hating.
Wait, first of all, as me being raised here, I protect both. First of all, some Nigerians, they do sometimes, Africans in general, some of them do think they're better than African Americans, which is bullshit. Right. Because it's not the truth, because Africans are treated like shit in Africa. Colonization. Yeah. England, France. That's why you speak in French, not because you special. Yeah. Because they came and sat on your shit and said, you're going to speak what the fuck we speak. Right. The Dutch, all of them, Italian, all of those European countries came and colonized you, treated you like shit. I mean, you go to South Africa, white people are calling themselves Africans and they don't even look at it. That's some gangster shit, don't you think? Right. I'm from South Africa. No, you're not. You're Dutch. You just didn't know when the fuck to leave. You see what I'm saying? It's fucked up. So that should tell you, and what African Americans have gone through, the fucking hell that they've gone through and still go through. How are you coming from that mentality and saying you thinking you better than them because you have an accent? Because for some reason, he has an accent. It's a little different. It's like when you're British, like Idris said, when you have a British accent and you're black. Hello, I don't know. That's what I'm doing. Ooh, that's why they get to play us. Listen, British black dudes are playing drug dealers. I thought Idris Elba was from Baltimore. I thought he was. You know, he was like, yo, you motherfuckers don't understand. And then I'm watching BBC when I did. Boy, I studied the ghetto in Baltimore. You sound like Lord Baltimore, motherfucker. What the fuck? What the fuck was that? And then this Driss guy, there's another Driss.
Yeah.
A Snowfall.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this motherfucker's like, yo, cuz. And he's like, I took a, the fuck is this, Another, because I don't know what it is. Something about, this is just my theory, something about that Black American accent. Hey man, fuck man. But hello. Oh. And we'll let Idris play that, but then when he gets back to his normal self, we get to hear James Bond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we don't want to hear that. It's something about that. I don't know. I think it's just a little weird. It's like African Americans go through hell, but everybody copies African Americans.
Right.
Everybody does. I've been to a lot of countries. You've been to a lot of countries. I've been to a lot.
I've been to a lot of countries.
You haven't been to a lot of countries? You're so Southern.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll go.
I've been to a lot of states.
It's a lot of stuff. God damn. I mean, I go fishing over there. Yeah. So damn. And I get my RV. Like my grandma said, man, if you ain't got nothing to do, stay where you at. but listen, I'm saying when I've been to China, I actually performed. I was the first American to perform in Russia in 20, and black shit is everywhere. Hip hop, there's Russian hip hop. I was in Lithuania, went to a Lithuanian hip hop club. I was the only black dude there. And they were all grabbing their dicks. And I'm like this, hi guys, hello. Hi, that's our culture. Yeah, China everywhere is hip hop. When I was in Japan, when I was in Korea, black people are copied. All that K-pop is just nothing but fucking American. I think the African American culture is the strongest culture on the planet, period. Because even Africans are going, yo, nigga, man, fuck all that shit, nigga. Really? You sound stupid, man. This nigga got a lot of nerve, man. I was just saying, though, man, nigga, shut up. Get the fuck out of here.
Interesting. It's very interesting how Shannon asked that question. Why y'all be hating on us? When Shannon did his ancestry, in fact, they mentioned it earlier in that conversation. His ancestry says he's 90% Nigerian, right? A guy from I forget the town he's from again, but somewhere down there in Georgia, right? Just crazy, man. Let's do this again. Let's see if Oni stuff is working. Oni, how are you this week?
I'm pretty cool. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. I'm pretty cool. I actually went back to the motherland because what am I doing in the white man's land? You know what I'm saying? Beyond that, I published my book. So if you guys want to know, you guys can check it out. It's on Amazon. Wangalifu, that's the name of it. But that's about it. Appreciate you having me and all that. What time is it now? I forgot.
Drop the link in the chat.
It's 3 a.m. right now, but I know y'all wanted to hear from me, so yeah, here I am.
Drop the link in the chat for your book. Let's welcome in Angie, the ENTJ. I believe Andy's been here before. I could be wrong. Angie, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Actually, this is my first time here. Juana invited me.
You're muted.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, I heard her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I heard it too. Yes, I heard it too. Yes. Well, welcome, Angie.
Hi,
you can hear me. I'm
you.
so happy. I'm so happy you decided to come and join us tonight. Fellas,
thanks for having me.
The reason why I invited Angie is because she is a strong feminist kind of person with a very dominant opinion about the world. And I think that she has something to present and really add to the dialogue and discourse. So I hope that y'all guys find her very friendly and amicable and having conversations with her tonight. Thank you for coming, Angie.
Oh, you're welcome. And if I could piggyback on that introduction, I'm more of a humanist and a globalist in my mindset. I know I can at times sound as if I lean feminist, but I'm for everyone.
All right. Well, thank you for coming through. I hear you now. For some reason, I didn't hear you at first, but I hear you now. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. in the chat, Trigger Happy 262 Plus says Shannon definitely looks Nigerian. Someone needs to mute their mic because I could hear background noise. Shannon definitely looks Nigerian. He says KW Don 7 says they're Africans in America. I don't know what an African American is. Trigger Happy 262 Plus says African culture in America is popular because one, it's African culture, and two, America has the biggest microphone. If Brazil had the biggest microphone, we would all be doing samba. I agree with that 100%. With that said, let me start it off with Oni. Oni, what say you to what you just saw in the video as it relates to the prompt for Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 tonight?
Yeah, I think Trigger said it. African Americans are popular because America is popular. America is the most popular nation on the planet at this point. Yeah, I mean, like, especially when it comes to media. Like I said, I've listened to the Putin interview by Tucker Carlson, and even this guy Putin, he's the president of Russia, and he's like, you can't win a propaganda game against the United States. You know, so this is the president of Russia saying that the most powerful propaganda on the planet is coming from the United States. So, I think we tend to overestimate, you know, it being us. I'm not saying that we don't have a good culture coming out of America or a good presentation, whatever. But the reality is that this white American, if you will, kind of popularized radio music, you know, or popularized putting black people on in media, and in so doing, you know, painting a certain narrative, because it was a political decision by, I can't remember who, but by essentially the Soviets once upon a time were saying, why should America, you know, be the global leader? Why should it lead the world? Why should, you know, capitalism be a model if it treats its black people so bad? And so America pushed this idea of, we're going to put these, you know, these musicians in front of everybody to say, basically, black people are treated pretty well in this country. So they're really, like, it's really not a good thing that that quote unquote black media, black popular media is so popular, because it's really done in order to make black people seem like they're less oppressed, or seem like they are, you know, doing pretty well for themselves. But, and I'm not saying that they aren't. I'm just saying that, you know, it's a big scheme, a big stratagem, if you will, and yeah, it worked. You know, a lot of people are like, hey, you know, okay, if there's any country on the planet that, you know, treats black people well, a lot of people believe if it's any country, it's going to be America, you know, which, you know, black people, you know, there's a small voice in America that says, no, we're not. But there's a larger voice like Beyonce and, you know, whomever, which pretty much says, you know, yeah, black people are doing pretty well for themselves if they want to, you know. So yeah, but again, the big reason why it's so popular is because America's the most popular country on the planet. Like, you go anywhere in Europe, you go anywhere in Asia, you go anywhere in Africa, and a good majority of well-informed people know about America. They know America, maybe not America's president, maybe they do, I don't know. But they know some things about America. Like, it's all over the movies, it's all over the TV, it's all over so on and so forth. You know, now compare that to Sri Lanka, right? Compare that, I was just in this country called Qatar, never heard of it, right? If you compare it to other places like Qatar, Sri Lanka, you know, Melanesia, whatever. When you do that, or any country in Melanesia, because I don't know any of the countries, right? But when you do that, you realize, yeah, America is actually pretty popular. So of course, the population that America uses to push propaganda, to say that America is a pretty good country and America welcomes minorities, you know, yeah, it's going to be popular too. But I don't think it has anything to do with any of that other stuff, honestly. But that's it.
Cool. Thank you for that. Let's go to Angie. What makes the African American culture so popular across the world? What say you?
Okay, my perspective on it may be a bit brief, but I think part of the reason why African American culture is so popular around the world is simply because it's so relatable. I mean, I'm an African American from down south. When I say I'm black, I'm collard green and cornbread black, you know. And I was raised by a community of people, including my great grandparents who lived through the Great Depression and so on and so forth. So many stories I could tell you on that one. But when I first started traveling around the world, I noticed that when I traveled with people from different cultures, they were kind of like not approaching the locals like that. Whereas me, hey, like I said, I'm from down south, African American. I was raised to say, you know, if I see someone, say hello, good morning, and smile, wave. So we tended to be like that. We're approachable. Um, our Some of the things that we've encountered, people from different parts of the world, in their own way, they've encountered it too, and they could relate. So, and this is combined, I feel, with the fact that American society in general is individualistic as well, as opposed to being hierarchical. Many places in the world, the society works on a hierarchy. Like you have to move as a group, as opposed to deciding, you know what, this is what I want to do. This is how I feel I want to go about it, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So I think a lot of people are excited to see what the outcome of that is, especially in someone who looks closer to them, because most people in the world look closer to being an African American, figuratively speaking, than being a European, for instance. So I think that's part of the reason why.
All right, I
Oh,
appreciate it.
and
We'll come back.
Oh, sure. No, but I'm sorry. He told me to mention my channel, which is simply Angie the ENTJ. So if you type at Angie the ENTJ in YouTube, you'll be able to come across my channel.
Okay, good, great. Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off, but yeah, we'll get into your channel a little bit more too as the night goes on. I appreciate you being here once again. Thank you for the response. Wano, what say you to it? You heard what Angie had to say. You only had to say, and you saw the chat. What say you?
Yes, so I am glad that Angie responded in the way that she did, because she made a distinction between what this guy is talking about in terms of hip hop and popular culture, which is popular culture, which means is in the so-called African American zeitgeist, hip hop, whatever that is. Because I don't think hip hop is black culture. I don't think hip hop is African American culture, and I'll get into that in a minute. But when she says that, and her being from down south, she is very open, very friendly, very approachable. So when she travels the world, where the world might be standoffish, some parts of the world, when she goes in different countries, her culture is one in which she knows how to say good morning. She knows how to approach people. You know, this is unique to some people. You know, if you do this in certain parts of England, people will look at you like you are insane. You know, that is, and really, that's not necessarily just specific to down south, because you will find a lot of Caribbean people who do that as well. But I think that is one of the things that I could compare to African American culture. when she says that the individual, they act outside of the hierarchy. In Caribbean, they try to find out who your parents are. You are locked within a particular circle of people or group of people. Whereas in America, the individual is more prominent. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. I know it's a unique thing to world culture, because the world sees things really collectively. If you go into different parts of the world, through family, through organizations, through political party alliances, they look at the group instead of looking at the individual. And that experience of Americans and African Americans who are a part of that culture, seeing themselves as me first, the individual first, is unique to the world. So I think that brings a different kinds of perspective to the table. And people are drawn to that because they want to be recognized. Human beings want to be recognized for themselves, not necessarily the group. But with this guy, when he says that look at what these guys are doing, saying yo, 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 and holding their crotch and shit, I don't consider that to be African American culture. I consider that to be a subculture that it was created in the lab of white corporations to send out images around the world that this is how the black man or black woman behaves. I don't consider it as African American culture. There's a popular so-called rap artist right now. Her name is Suki Hannah. She has on the album cover, she has her legs open, and she has a sign next to it that says selling. That's whore culture. I don't want to say that that's African American culture or pin at the African American culture. They say, well, that's because the young people are doing it, because it's popular among the young people. That's why it's so popular around the world. I don't see myself in that or want to even align myself with that. When Snoop Doggy Dog calls women bitches and whores and shit like that, that's rap culture. That's a subculture that is sold all over the world. Young people consider that to be popular, but I don't align myself with that. Gangster culture is another thing that's within hip hop. Who is selling these images and creating these so-called popular images for people to go after around the world? And then putting African American on that. I don't see that as African American culture. Malcolm X is African American culture. He's a studious man. He ate one time a day. He did things that was respectful of women in his community and his wife. Why don't we associate that with African American culture? Why isn't that a popular, when people say, well, African American culture is popular around the world, why don't they associate the actions of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King? Why do you have to go down to Snoop Doggy Dogg or some rapper? And these guys are only allowed to do what the corporations who hire them allow them to do. And it's within that sphere, that's what's sellable around the world. And I don't consider that to be the African American, because the African American is not in control of that image. He is not in control of that image. He doesn't have the distribution chains to send out that image around the world. Some Jewish person may have it, but he doesn't have that. So I don't really want to tie to the African American culture. You know what I mean? I think that when I look at African American culture in terms of being popular, I consider disciplined men who are studious, men who respect their wives and their children, men who respect their families, like Martin Luther King Jr. That's popular to me. The world should embrace that. But when you're talking about some degeneracy, some subculture that's sold all around the world, and then you say, well, that you are lying with the black man in America, I have a problem with that. That's nothing to be embraced. That's toxic. And really and truly, you would see people who have Peter Pan syndrome, the idea of wanting to live and live without consequences and live forever and things like that. Young kids, when you're 25 and 26 and have real world responsibilities, you don't wear your hat backwards and wear your pants below your waist. Come on, man. And then you untie it to the black man in America. I think that's very mischievous for us to align that with so-called African American culture, because I don't see African Americans as just that. That is a subculture. But I'll stop there. I'm on a rant. I'll stop there.
But Buana, what say you to the notion that when you often hear the average African American speak of the culture, they're referring to hip hop. So hip hop is the culture. Rap is an element of that culture, right? It's part of the music of the culture. But you know, many, especially young African Americans and those who come to America and become influenced by hip hop and stuff like that. They'll tell you that hip hop is the culture, and they'll add that you're not from here. What do you know about it? So, what would you say to that?
What I would say to that is there are many different genres in America in terms of culture. What would you consider culture to be? Culture is just a behavior, a way of doing things. The African Americans have a prominent church culture, religious culture in America, very popular, that is prevalent around the world. Some of their religious people are very prominent around the world. That is a culture as well in America, where it's sent out all around the world. But we associating culture with just music and the clothes that are worn and the behaviors that are exhibited. That's just one portion of America, or black people who are behaving in America. What about the people who don't do that? There's so many people who don't do that. So I mean, I don't know. I like I say, I have only seen very young people between the ages of maybe 0 to 21 years old. After you become of a certain age, you're not gonna do certain things. You know why? Because when you're a 30-year-old man wearing your hat, when your pants beneath your waist, and when your hat cocked backwards, the world see that as stunted growth, stunted development. They see that as stunted development. You know what I mean? And me personally, I wouldn't want to align myself with that kind of individual. Now, maybe that's the elitist in looking at that, but I see that as stunted growth, stunted development. But I'll leave it.
And I appreciate you explaining that. But some people will challenge that. I think we're going to see that in a minute. First, let's introduce Kofi, the Black Critic. I was listening to you live. I heard Buana and Anthony McFall on your show. Good show. How are you this week?
Doing good. Thanks for joining that show. I appreciate it. Yeah, Anthony and Brian. Yeah. So I caught the tail end of this. So we're talking about what is American.
I hope it's not my computer messing up. Is Kofi speaking?
Yes, I'm speaking.
Yeah, he's speaking. Yes.
All right, Kofi, go ahead. For some reason, I'm not hearing you when you first start speaking. So I'm sorry. Start from the top. What are your thoughts on this so far?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. So, because I got the tail end of it. So, what is the topic as far as like what is Black American culture or what's perceived as Black American culture?
He said, why is African American culture so popular around the world?
Okay. I kind of heard this topic before. The reason to me simply being because African Americans have a good venue, and that venue is America. Everybody looks at America as far as like what America is. You know, Americans are trendsetters, whether it be black, white, or whatever. So we have a venue. So there's many talented people all over the world, but that's all over the world. Everyone's eye is fixated on America. And when it comes to America, it's very innovative. So we kind of trailblaze media. And what I mean by media, we were the first country to have radio shows. We're the first people to have TVs, television sets. So we have media. So everyone is always looking at America as far as like media is. We're the trendsetters of sitcoms, talk shows, and just shows in general, right? So African Americans, again, being the leading entertainers, right, since the plantation, right, we're always the trailblazers and the trendsetters and everything. And I think that's why African Americans are known around the world because of America. America has a big stage for them to perform. So I don't think it's anything uniquely that African Americans are doing other than anybody else in the world. That's why their culture is popular. And I'm not trying to take away, the efforts and the trailblazing of African Americans. That's not what I'm trying to do, because they did trailblaze a lot of things, especially in music. African Americans invented country music. African Americans invented you gotta understand, white people what were they doing? They were doing the waltz, listening to Mozart. That's all they were doing. ballroom dancing, big band music. That's the only thing they did. That's the only thing they did. So when they start doing the conga is from the Congo. It's a dance. But through the Spanish vernacular, they call it the conga when it was the Congo, right? All these innovations and stuff that we do was something that African Americans already had. And well, when I say African Americans, well, I obviously mean as far as like in the Caribbean as well. You know, these were things that we invented, and they did. Again, African Americans invented R&B, hip hop, all these things, which is popular. But I'm saying is basically the venue they had, which is America, is what made them popular. Pretty much, that's my view.
Appreciate that, Kofi. Let's welcome in our boy Zuliism this week. Zuliism, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm fine, man. I would agree with the last caller to say that they export African American culture to bring them revenue. Yes, and one of the main things that they said is that the last caller said, yeah, black people are talented everywhere, but since America has the money, has the big investors, they use black culture to promote America, and then that in turn brings revenue to America. But if we had this, if like for example, we could use Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. Bob Marley had the backing, and Peter Tosh didn't. So what I'm trying to say is that wherever the money is to put the investment behind that special group of people, yes, African Americans are talented. That's Caribbean Americans, but America, for some reason, is the consumer country. So they invest in it and they get people to buy into the how America is so great to black people, to accomplish black people. So now, of course, they export us. They export our culture to the world, and in return, the world tunes in to our movies, to the music, and come to America and other stuff. But one thing I wanted to push back on that somebody said, oh, the all of that is part of black culture. Stop lying, talking about men having dogging women, bro. And this is the thing I'm trying to say. Like, let's own the good part and the bad part, because that doesn't make. What is wrong with talking about come here, let me talk to you? I don't understand why a lot of us seem to take our I'm gonna label it dialect or whatever slang to be like it's a bad thing. They once we start using it, they start using it. And for people to say they're not like Caribbean people or African people or black people from different areas in the world, we always speak like that. That's our syntax, just different language. And people want to say the N-word, is a bad part of the culture. And other cultures, they say neg. And the Haitian community, they say neg. Neg means black. It might not mean like the same thing as a nigger, but it's there. So I don't understand how people, us having sex, putting sex into the music is not our culture. Stop it. It's part of your culture now. You adapting all that gangster life, that gangsterism. I was watching something. I know people in America might know about the diplomats, Purple Gang, or whatever. Dipset, right? You know what they got? You know where they got that name from? From the old gangsters, the people that we can't say their name without being demonetized. They were the gang with that name, Purple City Gang. Google it.
You mean the Jewish mafia? Jewish mafias?
Yeah, that was them. So yes, we as black people adapted that culture and made it our culture now. Let's stop acting like, we were all good, all great. No, we have bad part of the culture, and you got to own that shit too. Talking about hip hop, rap. No, the same way you want to claim Malcolm X, you got to claim Sexy Red too, because there's a bunch of people in the culture that are doing just that now, and they're promoting that culture all over the world. Because you know what? A lot of people, now we're not like Sexy Red, but you go to clubs, you see doctors dancing to Sexy Red, you see lawyers dancing to Sexy Red, you see teachers dancing to Sexy Red. So how is that not part of your culture?
So I'm saying that let's stop acting like Sexy Red is on the corner of its own. Young Thug is over here, and Tupac is up there, and yeah, all of that is part of your culture. Because if you didn't like it, you didn't dance to it, you didn't buy it, you didn't go to the concerts. Just like in the Caribbean, yeah, we was Vibes Cartel. All these dancehall songs talking about sexually raunchy and soca and compa that are very sexually raunchy, which is detrimental to the community. Yeah, all party to it. But no, that's not part of the culture. Y'all don't talk about honing or this woman horned this man. This woman give this man 2 jackets. Y'all don't laugh about it. Let's stop acting like, our culture, we don't, y'all celebrate the bullshit in the culture too. So it's part of the culture. That's what I have to say.
I want to respond to that. Can I respond to that?
Yeah, me too. I want to piggyback on that because he said a lot of
Yeah. I'm trying to tee it up, guys. You've heard everything everyone had to say. Now everyone has the opportunity to speak. You don't have to be called upon. Just go ahead and have the conversation. Want to start it off?
Absolutely. So let me start here. First of all, when I say yo, I am repeating with the words of the comic. You know, when he was saying yo. Now let me say this. Yes, Caribbean people, African American people talk with colloquialism. We have our own slangs and things of that nature. But I didn't only stop there. I say that there is whore culture involved when a woman presents herself with her legs open to the world and has the word selling on it. That's prostitution culture. I don't embrace that and I do not accept that. And nor should I have to accept that. When within my community, we talk about whatever is celebrated around the world. This whole idea of calling black women bitches, that is a unique thing that I have never heard my father call his wife or any woman a bitch. Never had any of my uncles say it. Never had no person of influence use that word in utterances in regards to his woman or women in his community. That is a unique thing. That's the first thing. When you talk about popular culture. The other thing is, I mentioned Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg has raised this idea of pimping is a good thing, selling your woman off. Where is that a culture in? I have not seen that. I do not want to embrace that. My woman should not be sold. The only person who used to sell my woman back in the day is in slavery when they used to put the black woman in the auction block and sell her off to other masters. Why should I embrace that's slave culture, brother? That's slave culture. Why would I want to promote that? The selling of that. Another thing you mentioned is gangster culture. Gangster culture, bro. I'm a Gavier. I'm not a gangster. I don't want to pay homage to no Jewish mafia, to no Italian mafia. No, bro, I'm a Gavier. That's not. I'm gangsterism in my culture. Hard work, perseverance, doing businesses in my culture, but not no gangsterism. Why you want to attach and assign that to me and say that I should embrace that? No, brother. No, brother. You talking to the wrong man. You're barking up the wrong tree, bro. You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not that kind of individual. So just because it is popular, that don't necessarily mean all black people should hang it on to themselves and embrace it. There are some things that as toxic as is day. And you telling me that I should embrace it because you could point to some specific thing that's good. Bro, I never used to be I glad Vibes Cartel in jail. As a matter of fact, they should have put him under the jail. I am happy he in jail right now. You know why? You know why? Because there were black people when he was arrested and say, it don't matter that he killed somebody. You know what I mean? It's okay. We gonna let that pass. Jamaican people are saying this on the streets. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. He was toxic to the community. He was selling face, what do you call it? Face likeners. And he was a very toxic artist. And I don't mind him going to jail. I listen to Barris Ahmed. Yeah, I never hear Barris Ahmed call a black woman a bitch in my life. You're mixing apples and oranges. You're mixing apples and oranges, and you're throwing us in with everyone else. You know, you're dealing with different kinds of individuals, bro. And that's all I'm saying. I am not a gangster. I am not a pimp. And my woman never heard me call her no bitch. And I would never have her for sale in any place around the world. That is toxic, 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 toxic. And if that's what you consider to be popular African American culture, I don't want that, bro. I don't want that. But I don't believe that's African American culture because I am reminded of people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, people who I embrace and respect. And the many respectful men out there who do 9 to 5s and do wonderful things within their community on a daily basis. Don't par that with gangsterism, pimpism, and whoredoms. Don't do that. That's unfair. But I'll leave it there. I'll leave it.
Yeah, that's true, but I think there's so many facets to the situation. So first of all, we gotta understand what is culture, what this takes culture, and things like that to see who's really leading the culture. Now, when it comes to hip hop, right? In the beginning, if you know anyone knew, I'm not gonna bore you with the history of hip hop, but it was always something positive. It was always something uplifting to the point where it's nothing like the Dipsets. You know what I'm saying? So Grandmaster Flash and Kool Herc and Sugar Hill Gang it's not like that anymore. The problem is that, which is nothing wrong with it, you had gangster rap came in. I remember, again, I'm a little bit up there in age. I remember listening to the radio, and I was listening to, I forgot, it must have been like Moni Love or Queen Latifah or KRS-One or something like that. And my uncle was like, "Oh, I don't want to hear that gangster music." And the reason why he's responding that way is because the media is saying all hip hop, all rap is just gangster music. And I had to educate him, and I was like, "No, this is not gangster music. Yeah, there's gangster music out there, but this is not gangster music." Another thing is that, so what the media has done, they are promoting the negative aspect of the culture. It's not like if you were going to rock and roll, right? And white people are very good gatekeepers. We are very poor gatekeepers of our culture. White people are very good gatekeepers. If I was to say, you guys go to a white person, I love rock and roll, what they're gonna say? Soft rock, metal, goth, you have all these genres. There are no more genres to hip hop. When I was growing up, you had hip hop, party music, hardcore music, gangster rap. You had all these genres. You don't have that anymore. I mean, now you have like just rap and drill music and trap music, but it's all negative. There are no more KRS-Ones. There are no more people like that. And another thing I wanted to say also is the culture, as far as like, I think I forgot the other brother's name that was on here. He was saying, well, nigger is something negative and stuff like that. It is something negative, right? And what did they do? They promote that. It's something that's being promoted as negative. And unfortunately, that is a part of African American vernacular. And the only reason why, and I don't like to attribute that to African American vernacular, because basically you just looking at a sick people and saying that's their culture, right? Without understanding why they're using these words. So gangster rap is basically, if anyone listen to The Last Poets or Gil Scott Heron, right? It's basically telling you their reality, right? So when they use the N word and they use nigga and say, well, it's okay to use nigga, it's not. And that's African American culture. I never heard anyone in my country, a Haitian or anyone from the Caribbean, use that in their everyday language. One time I was in the barbershop, they had this guy, and oh yeah, my nigga all the time. So I'm talking to the guy, and we're having a conversation. Kind of found out he's Jamaican. He was Jamaican, and some other Jamaican guy comes, so he start, speaking quote unquote Jamaican. I was like, oh, I thought you were American. He's like, nah, I'm Jamaican. I was like, bro, I could have swore you were an American because the whole time he was here, me and my nigga, and nigga this, yeah, nigga, and niggas don't, yo, shit is real out here, my nigga. And he was like, yeah, I need to stop that because I said, people in Jamaica don't talk like that. He's like, yeah, that's true. People in Jamaica don't talk like that. People in Guyana don't talk like that. So again, that's something that they're promoting. So we have to know how hip hop works and what is being promoted and what's the culture and what's not the culture. That whole N-word stuff needs to be corrected. And I'll just land my plane here.
Well, what I was saying is that whether you want to accept it or not, first of all, I want to say something. Snoop Dogg never promoted selling women for to get money. What Snoop Dogg is promoting is the culture of a philanderer. When he said I'm a pimp, meaning that he gets women because he got charisma and he got money. So let's stop saying like, let's differentiate between saying, oh, I'm gonna sell this woman to this man for $50 than me being a handsome man with money and with charisma. I believe that's what Snoop Dogg was saying when he was a pimp. Yes, that also falls under the sexual deviancy category. But you're not different if you're at the club shaking your butt to the soca song that's talking about sex this, sex that. What's the difference between that and Snoop? You're not different.
The difference
You're
is
not
he have
different.
done Magic One. He have done Magic One in his videos.
I
Sure, sorry. I apologize.
I don't think the Mighty
No, I
Sparrow and
apologize.
Snoop Dogg are the same people. I don't think Sparrow and Shaka Demus and Snoop Dogg are the same people. But go ahead.
Yo, if whether we want to say, I'm not talking about Sparrow. Yo, let's stop using the singers in the Caribbean culture that sings about good stuff. Let's talk about, so we could compare Snoop Dogg, if you want to the guy that Boana just said, Vibes Cartel. What's the difference between them two?
Nothing.
So okay, so what I'm saying for us to be
this is the thing I think we're missing. So when it comes to I don't like doing the verses just like that. Let's white culture. The problem is, as black people, right, we're judged extra harshly. There is a lot of sexism, a lot of deviant behavior in rock and roll, in country. But it's okay for them to do it. They're not deviants. They're not sexual deviants. So when
no, you say that, brother. They are sexual deviants.
No, I'm not saying that you say that. I'm not saying that you say. I'm not trying to indicate that you're saying. I know you're not saying that. What I'm just saying is the reason why we're having this conversation is that when we do the same thing, right? African Americans are in America all day, and like we're saying, how they copy dips and stuff like that. We're looking at Frank White's, the Al Capones, the original pimps, the white men that are here and stuff like that. So what are we doing? We're just mimicking what we see in our environment, and we put in a black spin on it. But because we've been demonized, right? It's saying, oh, that's black culture. Knowing that we didn't start pimping, we didn't start bootlegging, we didn't start stealing, we didn't do that. White people did that. So I think we're hyper focused on our behavior and not seeing where it came from, where it's normalized in rock and roll. Rock and roll, a woman could be in the bikini, shaking her flat white pancake ass, and that's fine. When we do it, oh, look at their culture. Look how they are. Look at these sexual animals that don't know how to control themselves. So I understand, yes, in hip hop and in soca and all that stuff like that, yeah, it's sexualized because it's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that what lens are you seeing it through? You're seeing it through a westernized white people lens, or are you just seeing it as, hey, that's just people. All people have music, have music like that. I'm pretty sure if you get some Hindi music, you see some Hindi music, some Indian coolie music and things like that, they be shaking it behind to and everything. But you know why they get a pass? Because they're not seen as sexual deviants who can't control themselves. That's pretty much what I wanted to say.
What I'm saying is that
Hold on.
I didn't finish, bro. Okay.
Hold on. I just want to remind people that you could just jump in. Don't wait for me to call you in. So Angie, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, sure. It's cool. I was just giving everybody an opportunity to air out. What I have to say is that as a African American, okay, there's way more to us than entertainment. We have stood up for human rights. And on top of that, I am an Ebonics speaker. And I want to clarify the difference between dialect and slang, because I think there was some mixture earlier on what the gentleman had to say. For instance, I grew up going to church and hearing old women who never wore pants, who did not pierce their ears, who wore clip-on earrings and could not read above a third grade level. They will be leading the spiritual songs and giving their testimony in Ebonics about how, the good Lord have done so much for them. And, then there's slang, the yo, what's up? What's happening? Uh, That is slang and it came out of Ebonics, but it is not Ebonics. And I want to make that clarification. And, slang like what's up has been normalized now for younger people. I still, am around people that are in their 80s and their 90s and even older. I just had an aunt back in February who clocked 100 years. She's not saying, yo, what's up? Okay. And she's not shaking herself, any part of her body to Sukihana and Sexy Red, which I want to go on and I'll be brief as far as that goes. When I think about people like Sukihana and Sexy Red, I personally don't agree with their lifestyle. However, what I do know is that when it comes to freedom, it involves understanding that people are going to do things that one may not agree with. So, looking at it through that vein, yes, Sexy Red and Sukihana, yes, they are both Black women. However, they are individuals. From my perspective, when Stormy Daniels made her rounds regarding her rendezvous with Donald Trump, and she was all up on the media and everything back in 2020 and whatnot, no one was saying that she was making all of white people look bad. Well, I think the same thing should apply to Sukihana and Sexy Red and whoever else. We are not a monolith, and it's time for the world to grow up and realize how true freedom appears and stop childishly stuffing us into this little box where all of us have to behave the same kind of way. And it may be indicative, and I don't mean to offend anyone with what I'm about to say, people who have a challenge not seeing the individual may actually have some, spectrum level conditions going on with them where they have to stuff everything in the same box and they got to act and behave a certain kind of way. I mean, we're all individuals and our fingerprints even tell you that. All of our individual fingerprints are different and so are we. That's all I had to say on it.
I embrace the individual, Angie, and I respect that. However, that image is used globally. The world has not evolved with the same understanding as your mind has, where the individual does what the individual does. And if I have never met an African American woman, and my introduction to her is the images that I may view via satellite, around the world. If I'm in the Philippines and some other part of the world, and my first introduction to her is a person like Sukihana, then that would be giving me the wrong idea of what a Black American woman is and what is a Black American woman is all about. But I understand your level of development in terms of what Urzuli was mentioning earlier. Snoop not promoting pimp culture. I want to mention this because I have to say this. Look at many of his videos. He has Bishop Don Magic One in his videos, who's a notorious Chicago pimp. So you may say that he is just saying that, well, I'm a guy who have a love for women and I just could get a bunch of. That's no. If I if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it is a duck. You can't tell me that he ain't promoting pimp culture, brother. That's exactly what it is that he is promoting. But I mean, let's play pretend like this don't exist. But like I say, in many of his videos, Bishop Don Magic One, who was a very well known Chicago pimp, is all over his videos. He is sending a message out that pimp culture is the culture. When he calling women, oh man, like I say, man, you trying to be I don't know if you being intentionally being dishonest, but I think that you need to be honest in your conversation. I really do believe that.
Who, me?
No, Azuli, not
Okay.
you, sister, not you. Yes.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is that whether you want to claim that part of the culture is part of the culture. The Sukianas, the Snoop Dogs, They all part of the culture. Stop trying to clean the shit up, talking about, oh no, my culture is Marcus Garvey. Is this bullshit? You're an individual. They don't look at you as an individual. They look at it as a group. Because you know why? Yes, the young lady said Sukiana and Sexy Red don't represent black people. But you know what I see when I turn on TikTok and Instagram? A bunch of black women shaking their ass like Sukiana and Sexy Red. A bunch of female doctors, a bunch of black female lawyers, educators, pastors shaking their ass like Sukiana, dressing up with tight clothes, their breasts out, their cleavage out, just like Sukiana. So yes, like the young lady
That's not,
said.
but the sister
Oh my
said,
God,
Auntie,
this nigga don't
Auntie
want to let
also.
me finish.
Sorry. I gotta
What
be
I'm
a
trying,
nigga. I gotta be a nigga.
what I'm trying to say is that, yes, Sukiana, a lot of black women and people are not acting like the Sukianas, the young thug. But you know what? When somebody from another country turns on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and see those videos being promoted out, me as a person who's from, let's say I'm from another country, and I see this is what I think black people are, especially if they're not around me. All I'm saying is that, yes, prior to this integration that we had, yes, a lot of that was in black culture. Like the young lady said, people at church, people then used to it, black women then used to do that. And if they had those women that was sexually like that, they were in the minority, and those were kept in the behind closed door. It wasn't put out front. I'm just saying that let's not act like that's not part of the culture. That's not. Oh no, that's not the. That's what we're doing is what Chris Rock said. There's black people and there's niggas. Nah, yeah, they all put you in a bag together. When people have never met like black Americans or black Caribbeans. So going to soccer, going to those carnival, women wearing nothing. That's what's the difference between that and Suki and Sexy Red?
The difference is they are not saying on the album cover with their legs open, I am selling my vagina. That's the difference.
Wait, so let me jump in because what I would say is this: I kind of agree with what Zuli said in the sense of like if you were just to be an objective observer, like let's say if you were an anthropologist, right, and you were looking at you were in China and you saw women in their silk outfits, whatever, whatever, right? You would say that's Chinese culture. If you see a significant number of people participating in it, you would think, okay, this is Chinese culture, right? And just the same, if you're being an objective observer, who is saying the N-word? Who is doing the rap? Who is doing the hip hop? You cannot look at that and say, oh, that's not African American culture. That's so on and so forth. Because like who are you fooling? There's a time like you could say you don't like it. You could say you disagree with it. You could say it's not your cup of tea. But to say that African Americans don't participate in it, right? And then you say, oh no, we had culture when it was blues. When it was the blues, we had culture when it was jazz. That's black. That's African American culture. Jazz is African American culture. Gospel is African American culture. It's all the same thing. I mean, obviously, you could say, hey, it's a different demographic within African American culture but it's the same way that you don't expect every single Chinese person to be doing that silk Chinese dance, whatever, right? You don't expect every Japanese person to be, into anime, right? But yeah, anime is definitely Japanese culture. You don't expect every Korean person to be playing whatever Korean video game. Oh, playing video games like a nutcase, right? But that video game shit is Korean culture. At this point, basketball, I don't know anything about basketball, right? But yeah, I mean, basketball in general, you could say is a big part of quote unquote African American culture. That's what it is. Now, as far as what's the difference between how Black Americans do it versus when white Americans do it, the reality is this. What Black Americans don't do that white Americans and everybody else does is they kind of partition their culture. You know, so like for instance, white people have pornography out the fucking ass. Like probably half the internet is pornography, right? But white people don't go around saying, you know, pornography is their culture. You know what I mean? Now, white people are the biggest producers of pornography. They're the biggest consumers of pornography. They don't go around saying pornography is my culture. They don't go around like the if I name a handful of people in porn, some guys might even know who I'm talking about, right? But the reality is that white people, regardless, don't really make them like super celebrities. Like they are like every other white guy knows whatever white girl in porn is. I don't know the white girls, but whatever. But every other white guy knows them, but they don't make them into, oh my gosh, white people know how to do stuff in private. You know what I mean? They know how to be hush hush about it. Like even like one thing I noticed is this. Dungeons and Dragons is probably a bigger, like by number, probably more popular than hip hop. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not, but it's pretty popular considering how big a population white Americans are. But white people don't make it, like, even though a lot of white people are into video games, tabletop RPGs, blah 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 blah. They don't say, oh yeah, this is who we are. This is our culture. This represents us, right? And that is the big difference, So I'm not like, so somebody whose parents are from Jamaica, my parents are not from Kingston. The reggae, the dance hall, that shit's Kingston stuff. But even not being from Kingston, being from a smaller parish, if you will, right? I could completely, if somebody says, hey, dance hall, daggering, blah, 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 is Jamaican culture, I'm not going to tell you, oh, no, it's not. It's blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say, yeah, it's pretty big in Kingston. It's pretty big in Kingston, and it's pretty popular around the world. It's what's being portrayed. So I don't go into this narrative of, oh, yeah, this isn't black culture because, what we really are is we're civil rights activists and we're, Malcolm X. No. I mean, yeah, look, Malcolm X and civil rights activists, that was also a part of the black culture at one point. Like, just like, Afros was a part of the black culture at one point. But at this point in time, it's drill music. It's what's going on TikTok. And putting your hands over your ear and saying, I don't agree with it. Yes, you don't agree with it. Most people don't agree with it. But that does not mean that it's not the culture. And that's that. And the N-word stuff, I'm telling you, I told this lady, hey, maybe you could stop saying the N-word to me. And she just went off. How dare you? I'm fucking this. I got a PhD. I got blah, blah, blah. I know rich people who say blah, blah. These rich people blah, blah. Like it's a part of it.
And she probably started calling you nigga more times. It's because I said that too. They say, oh, nigga, hush. And they think it's funny.
Exactly. I mean, eventually she stopped calling me. She stopped using that word because, she was like low-key miserable lady. But the reality is that you can't, trying to pretend like you don't have millions of black people, right? Or like, let's say 25% of black people listening to this shit every day. Right, and not 25, but a good percentage, right? Because I was talking to Brother Bakari earlier about that. But like when you start talking about percentages of people who vibe with a certain thing, then you can't just start dismissing it, okay? And I'm saying that because like even at this point, I'll put it this way: because Black Americans watch Dragon Ball Z so much, some people are like, even watching Dragon Ball Z is a part of Black culture at this point. What I mean is that when you go into the percentage realm, right, where it's like percentages of people do it, then you start like more than 1%. Then you got to start being realistic and stop saying, oh, it's not the culture, because you wouldn't do that with China, you wouldn't do that with Russia, you wouldn't do that with thing. The only difference again is that what other people do is they say this is a subculture of ours, whereas black people. Because unfortunately, the way how black people look at themselves is that they look at themselves as a subculture of America, and so they kind of conflate having a subculture with being a subculture, and that's just the big difference. Because white people, the subculture could be Star Trek, the subculture could be Star Wars, the subculture could be so on and so forth. But with black folk, it's like the subculture is black culture, and they kind of conflate the two. But But you can't dismiss that, because again, a lot of black folk do like Star Wars, do like Star Trek, do like Dungeons and Dragons, do like role playing games, do like, you know, so on and so forth. Don't like basketball, blah blah blah. But regardless, again, that's the big difference. And I'll just I'll just say like this one thing. You know, the Sukihana, blah 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 blah. I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh, I'm finally old enough to go look at a burlesque show. And it's like, that's some weird shit. But like, you know, I never went back, obviously. But my thing is this, that white folk be going to women strippers, you know, doing bullshit. You know, they do this religiously, but they don't broadcast it and make it seem like it's a part of white culture. They look at it like a subculture. But because black people don't look at it like a subculture, because even in Jamaica, they would say, hey, dance hall, that shit's a subculture. Going to the club every week, that's a subculture. What we do in America is we kind of just say, we as black people, we're just this monolith. But we know we're not a monolith, but we kind of look at ourselves as a monolith, and that's where the big difference comes in. That's it.
I'm gonna give Real Black Gentleman the last word, because we have to move on. So keep the energies y'all been having. RBG, how are you this week?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I think I'll just say briefly that I mean, why does it I think one thing that I would say that the nature of black people in the our culture is not a closed ecosystem. It's permeable. So naturally, other people around the world, a lot of people aren't white, tend to mix in. You know, there's Asians mixed in with black folks in this country. So everyone kind of sees themselves, a little bit of themselves in black people. It's just the nature of how it works. I've seen some East Indians, like actual Indian like rappers. I mean, and they have the same type of clothing and everything that black people have. I mean, it's because the white man's TV broadcasts everything. They see aspects of what is broadcast. We're not broadcasting our image. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. That's all I had to say. That's all.
I appreciate that, RBG. Like I said, for time's sake, I want to move on to the next topic. So let's do that now. Brother Bakari is out there in the chat. He says African American culture is popular around the world because of white people. The same reason the whole world thinks we are criminals. So just wanted to get that in there. Shooter Breeze topic number 2 tonight says, for the kids, keep dreaming. So this came with a link that's going to take us to YouTube. Let me share with you guys here. We'll watch the video and then we'll discuss it.
Future of your.
So when I came here, I had to learn quickly. But what Nigeria...
My computer is lagging. I apologize. I don't know why it's taking so long to buffer.
What shapes you to be is to learn, to be adaptive, to be a survivor, to be resourceful. Yeah. So quite quickly, you see all of the resources that are available to you that a lot of people here actually take for granted. And, you know, I think, like I said, I can't carry last.
What's this in front of us?
I'll get it to wave now.
Start to look at the world around you. Start to look at the things that you want to see that can be better. And then start to think about how can I create something that can make the world better. I was born in Nigeria, I grew up in Ede. Ede is Osun State. So moved to the UK when I was about 13 because my mum came as a medical nurse, and then the whole family came with her. And I was a child that was interested in engineering. Even back in Nigeria, I worked in a Radio Shack where you repair radios and things like that.
Oh, really?
And I did that for a bit, at quite a young age. Maybe I was 7 or 8. And then when I came to the UK, I had access to robotics, after school clubs. So I took advantage of everything. And then when I got to university age, I needed to choose a subject. And for me, because I was already interested in robotics, this is where you can look at nature, be inspired, use it to create things. Robotics was really the one for me. That's the long story short of how I got into robotics itself.
So why robotics?
Even from Nigeria, I was the type of kid that would spend a lot of time in nature. And people think, okay, how do you get from nature to robotics?
Yeah.
So, like I was saying to you earlier, my favorite place in Nigeria is a small town, not a village anymore, called Odiomu. That's my grandma was there. So we would always go to visit. I would spend time in the woods, just observing animals, just observing how nature works, the beauty of it. And then you look at life itself, creatures, how they move. So I would be looking at spiders, how does this thing walk? And so to look at it and then to try to recreate it. I think robotics is a creative art in itself. It's how do you make something that can exist in the world and have an impact and do some activity. You can obviously go down and define what a robot is, which is it needs to have some intelligence to be able to impact the world. That's where the link comes from. Looking at nature, looking at how things move, asking questions, just marveling in the beauty of life that we have, and then trying to then do something as well.
What's this in front of us?
So this was my first company.
I'll get it to wave now.
Can you make it come towards me? Oh wow. Okay, stop.
The story of how I got into this was, so as I was at university, I knew I always wanted to make a living through robotics. And some of the things that they were teaching us were to do with industrial robots. I wanted to do robotics because of Transformers, all these amazing things that I saw. So these things that wow you. So I started an after-school club where I was teaching robotics to young kids. I got the university, so I pitched to the university. I got some funding. I pitched to Hewlett-Packard. I got some funding as well. So this was my first cutting my teeth into entrepreneurship, that you don't need to go down a traditional job path. And when I saw that the robotics kids were using Lego at the time, when I saw that the kids that were normally rowdy, they were very, very engaged, then I thought, a lot of the products on the market are really, really boring. Can we create something that feels like a video game character in real life that can both entertain and use that entertainment as a way to get people to learn more about the engineering, about robotics itself? So that's how we started. This is called Mechamon, short for Mechanical Monster, a bit like Pokemon, Monster.
Oh, Mechanical Monster.
And the company that brought that out was Reach Robotics.
And that's your company?
So that's my company. So that was my first company. We closed that in 2019 because this product has two identities. It has the entertainment part and the education part. The education part is actually a lot stronger than the entertainment part, because the entertainment part then means you're competing in markets with the likes of Hasbro, you're only selling at Christmas, all of those types of stuff. So again, going from engineering to the business side, I had to learn on the job. So it was kind of the first business was me living my dream of building robots, bringing my wildest imagination to life. And quickly we learned that, okay, we have to focus on the education element of it. So we closed the business in 2019. The assets for the product itself was then acquired into Awari, which means to seek and find in Yoruba, which is a business that's focused on education and developing the robotics infrastructure across Africa. And we started initially in Nigeria.
So you said this company, you closed it down in 2019.
Yeah.
Why? It looks like...
Yeah. So, I mean, the hardware is a challenging business. And if you actually look, there aren't too many robotics companies or startups today. And that's because, as I mentioned before, the robotics industry is actually still quite young in itself. But as I mentioned, we had two elements, the entertainment part and the education part. So that business itself primarily was focused on the entertainment part, sell it at Christmas, let people buy it, things like that, and then let people discover the education aspect. So instead of doing that, we're now just purely focused on the education aspect. So you're using this in schools. Teachers are using it in schools to teach robotics and to teach education. So that's the primary focus, and we're doing that through Awari.
This is very fascinating to me. So when you were selling this, how much was it? And is there plans of eventually bringing this back to the market?
So this was about $300 when we were selling it at the time. So not a cheap buy, but it was actually cheap for what you were getting. So it's a robust package. And that was the first first version. We have a second version that Awari will bring to market soon as well. And then we have a second version that is a different shape, going to be cheaper and also much more accessible. Because the goal for us is how can we make this the robotics education platform across Africa so that young people are not disadvantaged because of their location. They can have access to a product that's not just built with them in mind, but is also relevant.
You've never programmed before, we allow you to draw. So if you're a kid, you've never coded in your life, you can literally just, draw a line and say walk forward, and it'll walk forward.
Oh, wow.
And then you can start to do stuff like change the head. We want to make the connection between this is your thinking and this is what the robot can do.
Moving from this one,
yeah.
What is this?
Now I focus on Awari, as I mentioned, but also Reach Industries. So that is a visual AI company. And what that means is we are taking visual data, so images, videos that are generated in life sciences, so inside labs. Imagine you're a scientist in a lab and you're running an experiment that runs for 48 hours. Unless you sit in the lab for 48 hours, you're going to miss some stuff that happened. So we allow them to have modules like this. This is just one of the modules that we use to capture data, gathers data about what's going on, and we can tell them this is what happened with your reaction. This is when it changed. So all of the functions that human would be doing, the manual data capturing, we augment the scientists so that they can do their work better and just focus on the science part of it.
So what's Awari?
So Awari is the education company that is focused on democratizing access to frontier technology across Africa. And we start with education. How do we make sure that young people have access to tools like this to be able to bring their wildest dream to life, to not just be because you're in Nigeria, not be able to build robotics like a kid in another part of the world. So education is what we're starting from. The second thing we're also focused on is research. Can we build an environment where you create a pipeline where people are coming out of education and they can also do interesting, world-class research.
So for example, you're looking at here, this is a robot called Baxter. And when it came out, the idea was that you'd just literally be able to show the robot how to work. So for example, rather than having to program it, you would show it, lift it, show it exactly where it needed to go and what it needed to do. And then it would remember that.
What are some of the challenges you face being in that space at the inception? Robotics is not something everybody does.
Yeah, so first of all there aren't too many paths to follow. So for example, there are other types of businesses where there's a template you can kind of follow, make sure the users are growing kind of like this. With robotics, you have to manufacture a physical product. So you have to set up your supply chain. You have to do the research. And in many cases, you also have to build the product in a way where you can update it when it's in the hands of the customer, a bit like your mobile phone. So the barrier to entry, how you start, is just a lot higher. The stakes are also higher. So the capital investment that you need at the start. So that means you need to raise funding. So I didn't really have access to money at the start of my journey. I had to go and get a lot of grants, first of all, which luckily the UK has a strong ecosystem for that. So I had to get a grant from the university and then also get a grant from the government to build prototypes, to get the prototypes to a place where investors could then say, okay, I can see that there's something here that could be value in the long term.
How important do you feel it is for Africans to be involved in robotics?
I think it's one of the most important things, not just robotics, but frontier technologies. In that bucket, you have artificial intelligence, you have robotics itself, and you have biotech itself as well. Those are some of the things that will shape the world for the centuries to come. The reason why artificial intelligence is important is if we don't start working on it, we're going to be left behind. If you look at a country like China, they worked hard to move out of a agricultural kind of economy to make sure that they have manufacturing as a strong foundation, which has a lot of robotics in to develop into an economic power of a whole nation, of a whole continent, as you invest in these technologies.
What can be done to make this change happen faster?
So practical example is definitely you can look at what's been done in other countries. There is a role for the government to play to subsidize in some way. In the UK, there's no shortage of grants. There's no shortage of grant funding. Every month you can apply to Innovate UK. There's research facilities to just make sure that all of these questions, what is research? These questions are being asked about, can we build technology that can make human life better, that can lessen suffering, all of these things. And then, you provide funding, you allow people to not worry about survival so that they can start to self-actualize. So you've got that Maslow's hierarchy of need. At the bottom is survival, and then all this other stuff.
All right, I gave that good 10 minutes. One of the things I like to see from black folks is when they develop these business ideas that can pivot, that have these pivot points in it. Not all businesses can do that. Where if the business side of it, the real money making side of it fails, we could flip it, we could pivot it into education, teaching. You know, it's like when someone buys a commercial property and they can't rent it out to a business, and they make a pivot and say, all right, we'll host parties or something in the space, you know, to make that money. I like to see that they had that here. They tried to, they realized they couldn't compete with the Hasbros and the bigger companies. It just didn't make sense, but they were able to turn that experience into educating like the next generation. So I kind of appreciate that. I want to start with Angie on this one. Angie, what say you to what you just saw?
Oh, okay. This young Yoruba man, I believe both of them are from the Yoruba people in Nigeria. But the robotics guy, he's very inspiring, and the other guy, I can't think of his name, but I watch his videos on occasion, and I like what he's doing. However, I am a numbers person, and what I can say is that the first thing the young man, the robotic, mentioned is that his mother migrated away from Nigeria, and then eventually his family followed. And what I can say is that there's something that caused his family, as well as many of his other fellow country people, to migrate away from Nigeria for greener pastures. And another thing that I do know is Omoyele Sowore, who is the founder of Sahara Reporters. He resided in New Jersey before he decided to go back to Nigeria. He left the comfort of America, left his family behind in an effort to conduct a peaceful revolution, because right now, where Nigeria and a lot of places in the world actually, but we're talking about Nigeria here, they are sitting on a powder keg that can go in any direction. And so when he tried to conduct a peaceful revolution to bring about change in a way that would not require the shedding of life fluid, I know we're on YouTube, so I'm trying to be careful with my words. His own people jailed him for 5 years. So this man spent 5 years away from his family, and he just recently, I think last month or maybe a few weeks ago, went back to see his family after being away for 5 years. He's back here in the United States. So I see what's happening. I see the brilliance and the talent in him, as well as many others. But it's not going to happen if the foundation that this guy is trying to build his business upon was already crumbling before he started building. And it's a reflection on, unfortunately, what's happening in his nation, not on him. So that's my thoughts on it. There's a reason why a lot of people are migrating from the global south towards the global north, with the exception of being Australia, where people from Sri Lanka are migrating across the ocean to get to Australia. There's a reason for that. And until that is addressed, then all of this effort, all of this brilliance will be wasted, in my humble opinion, if they try to do it there until they deal with it. I'm not saying that it's not possible, that it can happen. It can happen anywhere, but they have to deal with their issues first.
I appreciate that, Angie. And I agree with a lot of what you said just now as well. Someone got to turn on the mic. With that said, let's go to Zuliism. Zuli, what say you? Okay, I guess Zuli is on something else right now. Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
I'm here. I'm here. Well, I mean, I think that it's noble. I can't knock it. I'm not gonna like speculate into like resourcefulness and how it can be, how it can be kept up. Um, Africa has all the materials that over here in the Western Hemisphere and all over the world that they want. That these computers, these cell phones have all the raw materials that is extremely scarce in other places. In Africa, it happens to be in abundance. Now, these white folks have all kinds of ways to figure out what's in the ground, but you can only do so much unless you dig up in the ground. And that's the thing that African people can do. We don't have to copycat what, as far as technology, everything that, each developer out here is doing. I grew up, I remember it was like the old school floppy disks that were the hard, like the actual floppy disks with a little thing in the middle. Then they had the harder floppy disks were like smaller and kind of square, but it's still called them floppy. Then you had CDs, MP3s. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying, everything is digitized. It's like everything is a new level. There was the DVDs, then the Blu-rays, the laser discs. You know what I'm saying? Everything, there's all these incrementations. So what Africa has to do is actually like just break the technology like chain. Whatever technology Africa is doing, somewhere on the African continent, some brilliant mind, I truly hope, is figuring something out. I watched a documentary a couple of days ago on how blue LEDs they were incredibly hard to make. And this Japanese person in one of these companies, electronic companies, he basically was a rebel and kind of like went against the wishes of his own companies, did his own research, and developed the actual blue LED. I mean, there's science behind it as far as like wavelengths and stuff and the materials used to do it, but there's challenges out there, and it doesn't take much. Like if you have the equipment, if you know what the equipment does, you can rebuild things and do things that no one else has done before. I do believe, like, the thing about the Yoruba, what I heard is that they're incredible material scientists. Like some of their sculptures in the metallurgy was incredibly like refined. Like, African people have talents. We have like materials talents. When we have our resources at hands, and we are our minds, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't take much to go ahead, and takes a little bit of time, and you want to make some exquisite things. It just takes a little bit of time, and you get to eat right, and no drama. You just sit back. You know what I'm saying? Good 50, 60, 100 years. You know what I'm saying? That young person, that old person to come up with something new. And it'll be world changing. So I see stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? I always think it's good because it's important to like build things from scratch and like do stuff like that. So when I see, I kind of did some stuff like that when I was younger, like with little Legos and have little motors to them and trying to make a move, and like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? It's always a good thing. I'm not gonna knock it. I'll pass the mic.
Let's see if Zuli is back. Thank you for that, RBG. Is Zuli back yet? All right. Looks like he's not. So let's go to Oni. Oni, what say you?
Oh yeah. What could I? Oh, kids should keep dreaming. Yeah, I totally agree. I think what he did, what he does, or what he's doing is really excellent stuff. I think more of us, and this is actually something I kind of stressed in my book too, honestly, but it's like we have to start getting into being producers. We can't just be consumers. We can't just keep waiting for other people to build what we want to see built. What this guy is doing is actually very impressive, and I think we should definitely do this more often. Now, I don't think that we should pretend like every one of us is doing this, or that a good percentage of us are doing this. I don't think we should pretend that. But I do think that when we do have people like this doing these kind of things, that we should promote it. When I was younger, I remember there were commercials for the United Negroes College Fund, and the tag was "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," and it really made me think back in the day, like, yeah, there's a lot of black people who would be geniuses if we had good supportive countries, good supportive, what have you, but most of us don't. But if we wanted to become that way, we have to, or at least that's what I try to say. Like in my literature, what I tell people is we have to build those sort of schools, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to learn robotics at this level, this level of comprehension, you really have to be involved in some sort of um, tertiary education, some sort of university level education. And the and the sad truth of it is this, that a lot of us as a people don't build those university level institutions. And so I think that the step forward for us is to build those so that we can churn out, because as impressed as we are of this one um, you know robotics guy, right? The reality is this: white folk are, have hundreds of them, have thousands of them, because they built the institutions to make thousands of them. We can't just wait around for one guy and be like, yeah, well, whoopsie, and then we realize, hey, he had to go to he had to go to their university and beg them for grants, right? So what we have to do is we have to say, like, we have to be serious about building institutions so that we can also say, oh, we have thousands of these guys. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I see Azulism came back up. Azuli, are you there now?
Yeah, hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Azuli. Yes.
What I want to say is that, it looks, kudos to this brother, kudos to whatever he's doing. Everything is good, but my only thing is saying is that how are we gonna use that to evolve? That's all I'm saying. It's what is his mentality? Is it money driven, or is it rebuilding like a nation driven? But I always knew that our brothers from different corners of the world could do these things. If we created all these big civilizations, this is nothing. But my thing is, like the sister said something that was important, is that how's the foundation, how's the moral foundation down there, the corruption foundation up there? That's what we need to worry about. Once we get that, once we get the moral compass up in every corner of our countries, then the kids will grow, because all of us, all the kids, African people, Caribbean people, we are a small group bunch. So if we created a great civilization, this is nothing. I'm not saying it's nothing, like it's not a great feat. I'm saying that we can do these things, but the concern is not our smart, our intelligence, it's the moral compass. That's the killer in those countries. That's all I gotta say.
Appreciate that, Azuli. You finally came through there. Juana, you've heard everything everyone else had to say, including what the matron is saying in the chat. This is an ad for Black Africans to come to Europe, etc. Go ahead, Juana.
Yes. So let me start here. So now we're talking about culture, because we was talking about culture earlier, and it's interesting that black men, because of the rise of our entrepreneurs in the music industry, Puff Daddy, Jay-Z's, all the popular musician artists, all the young people right now want to start a record label, because they've created a culture of popularity within the industry, of success in the field. And now you have regular men trying to become entrepreneurial. That's become a part of the culture. And I'm saying that in other communities, there's also a culture of this kind of thinking, where you have the Elon Musk of the world. Elon Musk right now they comparing him to Iron Man. So now the young white male wants to achieve in the areas of innovation, technology, and things of that nature. When Steve Jobs was alive, in terms of building Apple, everybody wanted to become a technocrat. All the young white guys wanted to become technocrats. They wanted to emulate that culture. You know, everybody wanted to go to California. What's the area? I forget the name of Silicon Valley and become an instant millionaire. And based off of the technology that Steve Jobs was developing. That was a culture within his community. But our culture was limited to music. And I'm saying that this is a culture that should be pervasive. This is a culture, and when I pin this culture against the ideas of Sukihana or the other brother selling pimping as a methodology for the future, I'm saying that that is no future. I'm saying that this is the future. I'm saying that this is the kind of culture that I believe that we should develop among us globally. The black mind and the black mind should be developed. You know what I mean? And I think that this is the culture we should go after. So let me deal with two other things in terms of what the Angie was saying. Of this culture cannot be fostered within Africa. These people have to go outside of Africa to create this environment. I agree with that. I agree with that because internally there are issues that the black man has to struggle and has to face on a daily basis. They can't basically get their shit together, is what she's saying. But what I would say to that is there is internal enemies to Africa. Absolutely. There are people who don't want to see the development and the production of Africans within Africa. People who look just like me and you. People who have high levels of authoritative positions and control. That's an unfortunate thing. But those people are employees of the external enemies of Africa. You know, these things are not really talked about. The external multinational corporations who benefit from creating chaos in African societies, who don't want to see development. Because what comes with development is checks and balances. We seeing what's coming out of the country. We seeing what's going into the country. We seeing who's stealing and we seeing who ain't stealing. We seeing who operating above board and who ain't operating above board. The external enemies of Africa don't want that to exist. You don't believe me? There is a interview, a congressional interview that this guy named General Michael Langley was being interviewed by Matt Gaetz, a member of Congress in the United States of America. General Michael Langley is a black man. Now, he was going into Africa inciting coups using black leadership people within Africa. It's on YouTube for everyone to see. You know, trying to destabilize African countries. Destabilize African countries. So how do I exist and how am I able to exist in a space where I can innovate peacefully inside my country, where you have people who are operating outside of my country trying to destabilize my country? How am I able to operate? Of course I have to leave. I can't stay. Because the external enemies working alongside the internal enemies. What do I do? What do I do in that scenario? This don't sometimes make CNN. Needless to say, I would say this. Sometimes this is the reason why you see the intellectual classes of black folks in the black world having to flee to European countries, the most stabilized countries, the countries really who are up undermining their countries. Because where do they go? China? Well, that's the next level. That's the next level. That's really the next level. That's who some of the African countries have opted to right now. I said, well, I can't use the Western powers and Western countries because they seek to undermine what we're trying to do here. So I have to defer to Russian governments and Chinese governments. This is what they're doing right now, currently, trying to develop a degree of stability. This is what happened in geopolitical affairs. But it won't the idea of the African man running, here and there, trying to gain some semblance of happiness and stability in other people's countries, that won't exist forever. Slowly and surely, these things are changing. You see these things with the coups in some African countries right now, where they have thrown out the French and saying, we're going to control our affairs. Africa is not going to remain the stepchild of other people's countries forever. We are slowly standing up as men and shaking off the dust, the people off of our backs, and operating as men in the world. And it's going to take a fight. It's going to take a fight to do it. And I say Building a culture of technology, building a culture of thinking, building a culture of development is what's gonna take us there. Not the culture of pimpology and whoredoms and smoking weed and doing shit like that. You're not gonna get to the next level like that. You're not gonna get to the next level like that if you're trying to get there. If you try, so I say that this kind of culture should be embraced with Black people. And maybe it's an unpopular message right now, but in the future going forward, I promise you will be a popular message. Just as why I promote people like Matron, who is reading thinkers, because the young people are gonna eventually catch on to why it's important to listen to the past and the people who is actually analytical about going forward in the future and building that future. Because we ain't trying to go backwards and we ain't trying to devolve. We're trying to evolve into better human beings and better persons. However, by any means necessary if it need be. But I'll leave it there and I'll stop there, Coco. Go ahead, brother.
Well, I mean, at this time, we've heard from every individual person. If you guys wanted to comment to any other comment you heard, how about it? There no further conversation. I appreciate everyone on that prompt. What we'll do is we'll go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 tonight. We're going to end at 11 p.m. So we're probably just going to get through maybe one or so more prompts. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says the first quote-unquote Black leader of any European country should the Black world celebrate. By the way, shout out to Yana B. I didn't shout you out earlier for being here. So shout out to you for being here tonight and active in the chat. I appreciate you.
Von Gething was officially elected as the first new minister, or rather the new first minister. Of Wales. He told the Welsh Senedd that he was made today when Vaughan Gething was officially elected as the first new minister, or rather the new First Minister of Wales. He told the Welsh Senedd that he wanted to lead a country of hope, ambition and unity. Mr Gething becomes the first Black leader of any European country. Here's our Wales correspondent, Rhys Williams.
Mark Drakeford. Vaughan Gething.
One by one, the nominations came.
Vaughan Gething.
Wales' 5th First Minister, but its first non-white leader and the first Black leader of a national government in Europe. A stone's throw, but a world away from the Senedd, lies Butetown, one of the UK's first multicultural communities. It was here that Vaughan Gething started his political career as a councillor.
It is said that no legacy is so rich as honesty.
Today, a watch party at the community centre.
History in a making, my friend. Wow.
Today's significance not lost here.
Vaughan Gething.
I'm fully aware of just how committed he is to bringing about change in our society right here in South Wales, and in particular for us here in Butetown, which have been subjected to that kind of race decades.
It's been such a momentous moment to see somebody who's known to us having such a, highest office in the land, basically, isn't it?
I never ever thought I would ever see it, live to see the day that they would have chosen, people would vote for him, I can't even tell you how I feel.
The mood here in Butetown is one of celebration, but there's no doubt this has been a bruising campaign for Mr Gething, with many uncomfortable questions about some donations he's received, and he also has a very daunting in-tray. The £200,000 donation came from a firm convicted of environmental offences, and it dominated the leadership race. Many of his own colleagues criticised publicly his decision not to return the money. Today, though, his first speech as First Minister focused on the future.
A Wales that recognises that we can celebrate our differences and take pride in all those things that draw us together and make us who we are. That is the Wales that I want to lead.
Rows over 20 miles per hour speed limits, NHS waiting times and reforms to farm subsidies have seen support for Mark Drakeford's Labour Party dip over the last 12 months. There are indications there could be a change to some routes. Vaughan Gething is also closer politically to Keir Starmer than Mark Drakeford was, and so the UK Labour Party will be hoping that some of the tensions that had started to emerge between colleagues at either end of the M4 will start to be ironed out. Here in Cardiff, though, with the majority of his own colleagues in the Senedd backing his rival in the leadership campaign, Jeremy Miles, Vaughan Gething's priority will be to rally his own troops.
Miss Williams in Cardiff, thank you.
Interesting story. Anthony McPhail out in the chat says to the Bit of Medicine podcast, we've already had Obama as the blueprint. It'll be white power and blackface. I feel you on that. RBG in the chat says, is he a foundational black Welsh or not? Yana Beat earlier said, I hope he's not another Obama. The Hot Shotty podcast is here. That's D Webb. He says, yeah, another symbolic whitewashed quote unquote leader. That man is probably going to crack the whip harder than any white man in the same position. Be wary of black quote unquote first. With that said, let me start off with Oni this time. Oni, what's the use of this?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like Obama 2.0. I mean, we already saw this show, you know. I mean, like you have to be living under a rock to not have seen Obama. What was it, 5 years ago, or yeah, like I guess it was like 5 years ago or some shit. Like you have to have been living under a rock. I'm not impressed. I don't think anybody should be impressed. First black leader of any European country. I mean, like, should the black world celebrate? Like, no. Like, if you don't understand politics at this point, where, you know, nobody accidentally gets into the leadership position, okay? They are hand selected from the selectors, if you will, right? If this guy is good for the, you know, it's like if you saw, like, you're not gonna see me on National Geographics. Like, you're not gonna see me teaching history on C-SPAN, on the government's TV show, or, you know, government's channel. You're not gonna see me teaching history on C-SPAN because this white boy knows better than to pick me to go teach history on his show, on his TV, right? That said, this is, you know, being a leader of a country is much more impactful, much more powerful than being on a TV show. Okay? I'm saying that to say that there's no fucking way this guy is on your side if they hand selected him. And we've seen this time and time again. And in fact, I want to relate this story about Jomo Kenyatta. They put Jomo Kenyatta in front of you because he was pro-British. Okay? They put Jomo Kenyatta in front of you. Now, if you got hype over Jomo Kenyatta, guess what? You drank the Kool-Aid. This guy, you know, these white boys, I'll tell you, look, these white boys, I'm not saying they smart, but they're not stupid. Okay? They are not stupid. They are not stupid. So when they put a black person in front of you, best believe they know who that mofo is. And if you don't, well, that's on you. You know? That's on you. But they know who he is. I'll leave it like that.
Appreciate that, Oni. Let's have from Real Black Gentleman.
You know, yeah, I just might have to like tail on to what Oni was saying. Like, you do have to be wary. You know, you always have to let results speak for it. We don't know anything about the dude. You don't know anything about his policies. You know what I'm saying? You don't know anything about his background. You know, like I said, Obama, you know what I'm saying, look, you know what I'm saying, had the, you know, complexion of a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, in this country, but his stock was not anything related to people in this country. You know what I'm saying? His maleness didn't come from a place of, you know what I'm saying, you know, black folks didn't in this country don't necessarily come from Kenya, you know what I'm saying? I mean, as far as like, you know what I'm saying, Wales, as far as like England, I'm no expert on Britain or nothing like that, but it's like you have England, Wales, Scotland, and you got Northern Ireland, right? And so like Scotland's trying to lightweight break away, and so Northern Ireland is trying to be absorbed into Ireland. So it's funny because the city of London itself, I don't know if it was just London or England, like they were trying to kick out all the Caribbean people. They called it the Windrush generation. I don't know. Again, like a lot of the black people from the Caribbean, they're trying to like kick them back out, while at the same time they're letting all these Arabs and East Indians all up into England. Like the mayor of London is like all like an Indian dude. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so I see it. He might be one of those, you know what I'm saying, he might just be a coon from, you know what I'm saying, the maybe a proper coon, I might say. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, you gotta be careful. Like, yeah, he's up there, he's wearing the suit, you know what I'm saying? He's talking the talk, he's up there. Like, I don't know who voted for him, you know what I'm saying? I don't know anything about him. Like, again, like when you say he's black, like, is he mixed with something? Like, is he like first generation? Is his people's been there? Vaughn Getting. I mean, is that a Caribbeanish name? Getting? Hey, you gotta analyze this stuff and be like, yeah, it's like as soon as you see the name itself, it's just like that doesn't even sound like anything that even Getting. That just sounds Germanic to me. Vaughn. Hey, yo, I'm gonna pass the mic.
Appreciate that. Real black gentleman. Erzuliism, what say you?
Well, they said something that he got a big contribution from a not so good company, and he refused to give the money back. He already spoke. Now, if you want to go chase him, like, he already spoke. He already told you what his character was. If a company that's I think he said a company that is destroying the environment or something like that. I don't know. If he took money from them and refuses to give the money back, he already told you who he is. So now, if this is not enough for you, whatever he does, and because you see, they go to these events or where they show you all black people cheering this shit. All black people who don't know, who all their dream is to sit at the table, not to get crumbs, not even at the big table. So to them, this is a big deal. But this man right here, as accomplished as he is, as good as he is, he's probably very smart, very intelligent, and has all of that. Well, we've seen this before. This man is a company man. He already told you who he is. Look at this old man. Look at this old man. This is his dream. And so I don't know what to say about that. Look at this, clapping like a clown. But he doesn't know better. This is his thing. This is their dream. The man refused to give the money back after they told him the company was a nefarious company against the environment. He don't care about the environment. Those black men don't care about no environment because they've been taken out of nature. So look at this. Well, congratulations to him. Hooray.
I appreciate that, Erzuliism. Let's hear from Angie, the ENTJ. What say you?
Okay, well, I think that it is a sign of progress when anyone can be voted into office that will cause a positive change to occur. And one thing I know about leadership is that once a person is in office, they have to not only care, they have to care for all of their constituents, not only those who voted for them, but as well as those who voted against him. So if his leadership can bring about positive change for everyone, then I think it's great. Why not? I think that it's all right to note that he's the first Black leader within a European country. Okay, the Moors once led Europe. Okay. And on another note, I participated in the natural hair movement before it was hijacked by other no good Black people. So one thing I do know is that when it comes to bringing change, one has to take the bull by the horns, just like we did back then. That's why people are still able to walk around with their natural hair out and wear locks and wear other types of natural hair creations and not be discriminated against. It's because of the efforts that me, along with thousands of other people, put forth that many years ago. So what does that have to do with Von Gething? I think he's just one person. And now he's quite powerful, and that's great. However, the people also have the strength of numbers. So just as much as he needs to show himself to be a good person, likewise, the people also need to be willing to hold him accountable if he messes up. And if he does something inappropriate, again, in this case, then they need to hold him accountable or be quiet and suffer in peace. And I say that as somebody who has a history of taking the bull by the horns and evoking positive change. So that's what I have to say about it.
I appreciate that, Auntie. I really did like that response. Let's go to Buana. Buana, you heard everything everyone else had to say. What for you?
First of all, let me say I love Angie's perspective because she sees things from a very purist perspective, as the world should look at things. And I respect her perspective. Absolutely. I do. But let me say this. For people who don't understand or know British politics, if you guys have heard of Candace Owens before, okay, the Western world doesn't change what they actually do and why they do the things that they do and promote the people that they do. And I'm gonna give you an example of that. So right now, Candace Owens is speaking for the conservative movement in the United States. You know, she's a conservative sister who is speaking on conservative issues speaking on American politics from a conservative side of the game, conservative side of the aisle. So the UK right now has a Indian prime minister, unprecedented in British history. You know, they have a UK prime minister who is a conservative guy. Okay, his name is Rishi Sunak, something like that. You know, unprecedented. So he speaks in very conservative terms, like he would be a Republican in the United States. There's another sister who her name is, I think her name is Sula Braveman. I think that's what her name is, and she is the Home Secretary. You all would call it the Secretary of State. She is from Bangladesh. She is from Bangladesh, and she got on the platform basically speaking against immigration into the United Kingdom. Her parents are from Bangladesh, and she was brought up in the UK, but she was speaking against immigration into the country. It's a unique thing where you see the conservatives, the historical conservatives, and we know who they are. They pick people of color, you know, POCs, to speak on their behalf because they don't want to see them out there as racist old white guys. So they pick certain kinds of people and they give them a large microphone and a large platform to purvey their ideas into the world. This is what's currently happening right now. So they use these kinds of people of color to purvey their ideas, and they hide in the shadows because, usually you could point at them and say, well, you being biased in your ideas about the world because you are an old white male person. So they recruit certain people of color to purvey their messages. So people like Candace Owens is not a unique thing. She's not a unique person. She's just unique to Americans, but she is not a unique strategy. She's not a unique strategy because it's this being done so all over the Western world, all over the Western world. So when you see this guy, he is at the other end. He is at the Barack Obama spectrum of things. This whole idea of liberalism from the Democrat perspective. And I find it interesting that they using the people of color to proliferate and sell their ideas to mass audiences. Mass audiences. I'm a little bit concerned about that because I'm saying that within those messages, within these people of color carrying water for the people who stand behind them, what are our interests? What are our interests? Are our interests going to be swept under the table for the interests of the people who pay these so-called people of color to carry their messages out to the world? What are our interests? Are our interests being fulfilled? Are our interests being aligned with? Are our interests being the first ideas to be sorted out before all these other people come in? Because like I say, Barack Obama and all these other people, yes, they were people of color, but they are carrying water for whatever political party. In the UK, it's the same idea. The strategy is to use the so-called people of color, while they stand behind the scenes and play Pinocchio's master. And it's just a dangerous strategy that's happening in the world right now. And I just really want to make the aware, well, I'm sure you all are, but the world should be aware of what's currently happening in the Western world right now, where these people are being used to carry the water of other people's messages and messaging. It's a very dangerous thing because, people will look at that and say, well, what are the black folks' issues? Well, the black folks' issues are what Candace Owens says. What are the colored people's issues? Well, the colored people's issues are what Rishi Sunak talks about in the UK. When these people are in fact carrying the water for other people, and they are not really addressing the people on the ground, the real people's issues and interests. And that's a very dangerous thing that's happening currently right now in the Western world, because right now, black people's issues or people of color issues are being swept under the table and under the rug. Or even females or males' issues are being swept under the rug for special interest groups. But that's neither here nor there. Like I say, I'll leave it there for the discussion for the rest of the panel.
Appreciate that, Juan. I'm not sure if anybody has any follow-ups, but if you have a follow-up, now will be the time to speak it. If not,
I'm sorry, I'm new to the space. What exactly is a follow-up?
No, if you had any question for any speaker who spoke, earlier.
Okay, Juana, what do you mean when you say that I am a purist?
Purist. When I say that, when you look at the what I'm thinking and I'm assuming, when you look at the political process, there is no issues of color. There is no issues of race. You see things on a level of fairness or issues of whether it's good or it's bad. The race issues and these other biases don't even come into play. You just see, am I gonna do something that's good or I'm gonna do something that's bad in terms of on a political platform? Race, all these other secondary gender, all these other issues may not come in. They may not come into play. So regardless of the fact that you may speak from a conservative platform or a liberal platform, what are you promoting that is going to be in the best interest of me? You know, so all these other secondary issues may not come into play. You know, it's just you just see the world is very black and white. You know, and I can be wrong about that. Let me know.
You are. You are. I see the world in color. I I tend to be somebody that gets right down to the root of the matter, but it doesn't mean that I don't see everything else along the way. I see the stem of the flower, I see the leaves, I see the petals, I see the stymon, I see all of it. But it's just, I guess, my own approach to things. I get right down to what's really going on here, and then I work on it there. That's part of the reason why I have ENTJ in my name. For those who may not realize, ENTJ is one of 16 Myers-Briggs personality types, and mine is the second most rarest on the planet. So sometimes I can come across the wrong way to people without realizing it, or definitely without meaning it. So that's why I put it there. Most people are like ISFJs and ENTPs and things like that. And from my perspective, a lot of what's going on is a lot of people are bandwagon jumpers. And I don't mean that in a harsh way. It's just what it is. And so whenever they find something that's comfortable and they see a lot of people that's going along with it, they want to join in. And I'm like the complete opposite. So that can that can rub people the wrong way sometimes, but it's not intentional. But no, I see everything that's happening. I just like to get right down to the root of it and handle it from that angle.
So ENJ. So race doesn't come in. So race does come into play. That's what you're saying. Race does come into play. Issues of gender does come into play when you're assessing the political landscape of things.
All of the factors come into play, but it's kind of like, what are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on the tail of the snake? Are you going to focus on the body of the snake? Or are you going to focus on the head of the snake when you're in the battle? Me, I tend to focus on the head of the snake because I know that once you take that out, everything goes with it.
And what usually, when you say the head of the snake, what usually is that? When you say you focus on the head of the snake, what issue would you say that you primarily focus on when you're saying that you're looking at the head of the snake?
What I often see in situations that bring about turmoil with race, gender, class, and go down the list. It usually the head of the snake appears as privilege and economics.
Economics. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Economics. Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So you're dealing with people who have grown accustomed to a privilege that came at the cost of others. So, like you have with racism, one race is privileged above another race, and the race that's at the bottom is the one doing all the greasy work and things like that. So that dynamic is there. When it comes to sexism, the same thing. You have one that has benefited off of the degradation and the resources of another. So this dynamic plays out the same way. You can throw practically any situation to me, and once I think it through, it boils down to that one is privileged and one is concerned about the economics. So this is when they start playing their games, such as finding somebody who appears to be like those who have been at a disadvantage and weaponizing them. So now you can't say that they're sexist. Now you can't say that they're racist. Now you can't say that they're classist because they found somebody that resembles the people that they've oppressed, and they've weaponized them, gave them a little bit of money and some talking points to yell back at the crowd. So yes, I see all of that. But what I get down to is the bottom of the matter, the root of the matter, or the head of the snake.
So last question. I don't want to stop them. So when you say economics, do you find yourself more in line with the capitalists, you know, people like Donald Trump, or people who are more like fairness, social, kind of like socialists. You know, society should benefit. Everyone should have a fair share of money and things of that nature. Where do you find yourself within that kind of like barometer? You know, how to put you, go ahead, sister.
There's not a true capitalistic nation on the planet. Even the US is a mixed economy. And those economies that are more leaning towards communism and socialism, they're not doing so great. So I'm not for either extreme. I am for an economy that does provide opportunities. So there's a bit of capitalism at play. But as we had talked about earlier on, about a week ago or something like that, I'm not for communism because that's the government making decisions on behalf of the people. What I am for is benefits to the people based on the fact that this is our land. We were born here. We're citizens here. We pay taxes here. Some of that should come back to us as a benefit, much like what we see with the Finnish in Finland, or the Norwegians in Norway, or the Swiss in Switzerland. They have, for instance, we're taxed here at about 27%.
Yeah.
So what I am saying is that of that 27%, a good portion should be returned to the people in the form of safety nets. So no, I'm not an advocate for Soviet Union style communism. The people were miserable. I've spoken to people who lived in the Soviet Union during that time, lived in Russia, lived in the Ukraine, lived in, those nations like that, and they said they didn't like it. Yeah, on the surface it appeared as if, okay, everything was taken care of. But one guy told me, and this guy, he had blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, straight out of Russia, and he said, they only got one coat and one pair of boots per year. And you had to be careful because if you weren't watching your boots, somebody would steal them. And, just to line up to get food, you had to stand in line. And sometimes things would run out. So I wouldn't want to be in an environment like that. But I think we can do better than what we have right now. No, I'm not socialist, Yanabi. I'm not at all. I'm far from it. So, yeah, I don't want that for us, but we can do something like Finland. As a matter of fact, Finland is copying what we initially had, and they're doing great about it. But they're not a communist country, and
Okay.
yeah.
No, that's cool. No, that's cool. I mean, like I say, you kind of like it. It sounds like you're in the middle between. You don't go to the extremes and fully capitalist or fully socialist or communist. You kind of like sound like you are really in the middle. Because when you say the 27% should be returned to the people,
Luana,
and it really
it's 10:30. It's 10:30, my
Huh?
nigga.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I just really, could you please stop calling me a nigga, by the way? Anyways, go ahead, Koku. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, good exchange there. Before we move on to the next prompt, Angie, can you tell the folks about your channel?
Okay, my channel is my name, Angie the ENTJ, and I talk about the stuff, the dirt and the filth that nobody wants to talk about. I think that a lot of times people will think that I'm just staunch feminist because a lot of videos that I've done have been to back those whose voices have been snuffed out, and a lot of times it is Black women who, no one else is listening to. But I am for everybody. I've done videos on behalf of men pointing out how sometimes men are hoodwinked and bamboozled by other men. So my videos kind of like put my ENTJ isms at work, as well as paired with economics, to give everybody something tangible beyond an opinion and a philosophy to go off of. You don't have to agree with me. You don't even have to like me. But at least I'm giving you the numbers and empirical data for you to realize what's happening in front of you. So that's my channel.
Appreciate it. You guys make sure to check out Angie, the ENTJ's channel. I appreciate Angie. Stick around. We'll be done at 11 thereabouts tonight. We're gonna go straight into Shoot the Breeze topic number 4, probably the last topic of the night. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 says, either get it on camera or get it in writing. This came with a link. I'm going to share my screen in a second. For some reason my computer is lagging a lot tonight. I'm going to share my screen with you now. So we'll watch the video and then we'll comment on it.
They were on a dream vacation in paradise until it turned into the holiday from hell. I ran and I was screaming. Amber Shear and her best friend Dongela Dobson were on a mom's getaway, taking a Carnival cruise to the Bahamas.
No kids, no men, just us. Like we're back at 4-H camp. That's where we met, 4-H camp in 4th grade.
The two moms say they were having a great time until the last day of their vacation. That's when they left the cruise ship and went ashore. They say they were looking for seashells on the beach when a staff member from the resort offered them a 2-for-1 drink special, which they accepted. Then another staff member said he could guide them to where the best shells were located.
It was the worst decision we've ever made. We noticed like we're starting to feel these drinks pretty strongly.
Do you think those drinks were drugged?
Oh, most certainly. They absolutely were drugged.
The friends tell me they have only limited memories of what happened next.
I came to being raped by my assailant. I remember being pushed down. I vaguely remember the guy's face and the facial hair.
The moms say they were both left covered in bruises and tested positive for the presence of sedatives and other drugs back on the ship. The mom's ordeal comes less than 2 weeks after the U.S. State Department issued a Level 2 advisory warning American tourists to exercise increased caution in the Bahamas due to crime. 18 people were slain just in January, most victims of gang warfare. Were you aware of the State Department travel warning for tourists?
No, after we left the infirmary back to our rooms, after we have done full kits, that's when our family notified us.
Nicholas Gerson is their attorney.
The law requires cruise lines to warn about dangerous conditions that they know or should have known about.
Bahamian police say they have arrested 2 suspects.
Carnival says they routinely share guidance to guests about keeping safe while on shore, adding that they are cooperating with the Bahamian police in the investigation.
If you think about it, this story doesn't even really make sense. So you was just innocently picking up seashells on the seashore, and these 2 Bahamian savages came out of nowhere, and out of all the women on the island, they decided to victimize you and another middle-aged mom from Kentucky. It doesn't even really make sense if you think about it. And it's crazy to me that these news companies, and we see this time and time again, these news companies will run these stories based on no evidence outside of 2 women crying about something that may have happened. So they blasted the Carnival Cruise Company, and they completely humiliated these 2 guys, dragging them to jail in front of their parents, in front of their neighbors, in front of their communities, your husband. But then you felt so guilty about it that you internalized the lie to make yourself seem like the victim. And this comes from the feminist mentality that women are always victims in interactions with men, even if they consent to it, even if it's their decision. It's gotten so bad that there are certain colleges in America where women can retroactively withdraw consent now. That means up until a week after a sexual interaction they have with another classmate, they can retroactively withdraw consent, and that male classmate could get in trouble for something that she consented to.
You guys, this is crazy. I made a video last night about these 2 moms from Kentucky who were on a Carnival cruise and made a stop at Grand Bahama. And apparently 2 of the staff members there slipped some DRUGs into their drinks and then SA'd them. Well, the resort and the cruise line is saying that their story is completely wrong and that they made this whole thing up. So the resort is called Pirates Cove, and they have 16 cameras around the resort, and it basically captured everything. And this account on the Book of Faces has a video that's just full of information. But basically, they said upon further review of their surveillance videos, the allegations made on site and in subsequent social media posts and news stories conflict with what the time-stamped surveillance videos contain. As such, the lengthy videos of all concerned have been handed over to the local police and will be shared with our industry partners as needed. And then the resort goes on to say that the two guys were terminated, but because they violated the zero tolerance policy. So here's a timeline according to their footage. The girls entered the property at 8:17 in the morning. They were greeted by staff at 8:24. Then at 9:40, one of the girls met with one of the guys who's being accused. Then at 10:06, you can see them, looks like they're walking arm in arm with these two guys. They were headed towards the western side of the beach where the alleged incident took place. Now check out this video and then listen to what they have to say about it.
Refused to let us see a U.S. physician or a carnival physician.
Refused to let us have a rape kit done immediately, made us go to the bathroom,
Guys, they wouldn't even give us a rape kit after we had been. They refused. They made us go to the bathroom and use toilet tissue, and they collected toilet tissue as their specimens.
And then they did an alcohol test on us like we were just super drunk. We had hardly any alcohol in our system at all.
Well, the resort says that their EMS offered medical assistance to both of the girls, but they declined and even signed a waiver. And then they left for the cruise ship in a private vehicle. But knowing the gravity of the incident, their officers boarded the cruise ship, providing an SA kit and hospital form to the ship's medical doctor. So that's completely different than what the girls are saying. And just to throw in there, there is now a GoFundMe with a $10,000 goal. Apparently, it's to help raise money for medications that they need that help prevent certain diseases. I don't know. But anyway, what do you guys think?
If you are Caribbean or you ever been to the Caribbean, you already know what it is. I was just with my wife in Jamaica in January. It wasn't nothing but single women who maxed out their credit card, and they see them dudes up there gyrating with all the muscles and that baby oil on their body. And after 4 shots, they want to eat sausage. And that's fine. If you a grown adult, do what you want to do. But then don't try to play the victim when you make a bad decision.
I did not know nothing about sex. So.
You're watching never before aired video of Juanetta Gibson and Brian Banks in the minutes before her stunning confession that she lied when she said the high school football star raped her 10 years ago.
This camera right here was in a plant.
This is the man who helped Banks get the now famous confession on hidden camera. Private investigator Freddie Parrish.
There's only one chance to get the goods. I mean, you got to make it right the first time.
Parrish's son played football with Brian Banks at Long Beach Polytechnic High in 2002, the time Juanetta Gibson made her false rape accusation. Gibson's family got $1.5 million settlement from the school district, and Banks got 5 years in prison and 5 more on parole, shackled with an ankle monitor.
So I know I'm not behind bars, and I know I'm not locked up right now, but I'm still very much incarcerated.
Then last year, Brian Banks got a Facebook friend request from Juanetta Gibson.
Mr. Banks called my son, Freddie, and asked him, what should I do? My son naturally says, hey, you got to call my dad. He'll help you with this. Once I was able to read the case, there was no doubt in my mind that this young man was innocent.
Parrish devised a plan to clear Brian Banks' name. He wired his office.
We had a pin like this
with hidden cameras
sitting in this pin holder,
and with microphones.
We had put the audio device in that tree right there behind you.
The private eye suggested Banks first invite Gibson to his office for a friendly chat about their past.
About all the scholarships, everything.
Brian Banks asked.
I will go through with helping you,
but she's afraid of losing all that money from her settlement.
All that money they gave us, gave me, I don't want to have to pay it back all that, because that will take a long time.
Now comes the hard part. Banks had to convince Gibson to come back the next day and talk to the private eye who was helping free him.
I needed to get her to basically recant everything that she said that Brian did 10 years ago. If I let this man down, I would have to live with that the rest of my life.
The mood in the room was light, but investigator Parrish's questioning got heavy.
When did you lose your virginity? Was it after him, before him? After.
Now the big question.
Did he forget? No, he did not. Did he kidnap you?
When she said those things, what did you say to yourself?
Wow, I got it.
It was the key evidence that Banks' lawyers from the California Innocence Project needed to go back to court, and that undercover video got Brian Banks' rape conviction thrown out.
So after this man got humiliated in front of his family, lost all chances of him going into the NFL, got 5 years in prison and another 5 years on parole, guess what her punishment was? Nothing. She actually got awarded $1.5 million that she never had to pay back. That's nasty work. That's diabolical. These laws got to change on this kind of stuff because the women who create these false accusations actually get protected. Their image and likelihood gets hidden from the media, but the guys who they falsely accuse before we even know if they really even did anything get blasted all over the media and they get humiliated. At the very least, I think the women should get blasted just like the guys got blasted, and I think they should go on a list of false accusers. I think they should have a false accusers list. Not only that, but they got to pay some kind of retribution, whether that be money or whether that be spending time in jail, because to lock a man up and take time from his life and to humiliate him in front of his community should just not be acceptable. But I guess it is in these situations. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a W or L, and give me the HBO special. That's a Help Brother Out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content.
All right. Should be sub number 4. Either get it on camera or get it in writing. Let me start with Urzuli on this one. Urzuli, what are your thoughts?
Well, Eddie Murphy warned us about them Bahamian dudes, man. Damn, that's savages.
I sure they were Haitian. But
No. My man said something. Well, yo, you just gotta be careful, man. As men, yo, when something seems too easy, walk away, bro. Walk away. And I'm not trying to defend these women. And this is when I spoke about sexual DICK discipline. Just because you could do it, you should be thinking, why is it so easy? Why are these two women so easy to do this, and that, and the third? You know what? I'm going to pass on that. Like the football player. He's a football player, good looking, got all these women. Bro, sometimes these women tell them there's something not right in their mind. Walk away. And I'm not saying that's a great defense or great that this works all the time. But having sexual discipline will alleviate and keep you away from these type of women. And second, I agree with what the brother said. There should be a list of false accusers. They should do. If a man could get 20 years for SA, a false accuser should at least get half of that in jail. So I really think that even if you get it in the brother, even if you get it on camera, she could say you put something in her drink, or if you get it in writing. So even those, you're still gonna have to go through the system, and the media is gonna destroy you, and then your life could be over. All I'm saying is, the best way, practice sexual discipline. Sometimes, if it's too easy, brothers, let it go. Even the brothers from the Bahamas, the savages, when the snowflakes come, leave the snowflakes, bro. Or y'all need to have it on camera. Because it might
he's having fun. He's having fun right now. Yeah. A lot of them could have been Haitian too. They probably was Haitian too.
No. I'm just saying, but I agree. Maybe get it in writing, get with a camera, make sure everybody's in consent. If she's too intoxicated, brothers, walk away from that, especially in the States. Sexual discipline will alleviate a lot of these pains, man. That's all I gotta say.
Appreciate that, Uzuli. Let's have from Real Black Drama. What say you?
Yeah, like you can't. I mean, part of it is just you can go to one extreme and get like extreme consent. You can go that way. I think personally, you cannot have a culture where you hang something like that. In the history of this country, what I'm saying, Emmett Till, what I'm saying, false allegation. You have to take these things incredibly seriously. We need laws against false allegations about sex crimes. There's no excuse for it. You cannot sit up here and have, men and black men having that as just a tool of malice. Frankly, I'm not with it. I'm not anyone who gives leeway to the idea that because it's a fact. There's white, black, men, women. Men. The idea of it's not anything that should be toyed with. The idea of throwing such a heinous allegation, and usually the nature of it is it's such a, someone's guaranteed guilty about it. It's like it's already a wrapped up situation where it's just like he did it because of this, and you see what I'm getting at, where it could just the nature of it. You have the beginning of the video, they said you have 10 days to change where consent is an unconsent. Okay, Captain, this is what we're doing now. Yes means no. You know what I'm saying? Is this the world on 1984 where it's like where the dude was saying 4, 5, 4 because because of the that's like torture in a way. I'm not with it. I don't think anything's funny or cute or amusing about any of this. We got it. That's just something that I would like to see. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Appreciate that, IBG. Let's have from Oni next. Oni, what say you?
Yeah, so well, my thing is this. I'm actually kind of confused. How did the guy get convicted? I don't fully understand how you get convicted from somebody making an accusation with no evidence. I'm also, as much as I like the idea of sexual discipline, from what it sounds like, the dude didn't even have sex with this lady. Because allegedly she says, he asked her, when did you lose your virginity? Was it before or after this alleged incident? And she said she lost her virginity.
I think Azuli was referring to the other two guys.
Oh yeah, the savages, yeah, Bahamians. But you ain't gonna see no sexual discipline with savages. No, I'm joking. But anyway, but yeah. As far as the football player is concerned, I don't understand how he got a conviction. 1, 2, I don't know how you could protect yourself from that. Like that sounds like a really fishy situation, and not just fishy situation. It could just be that there were multiple people who accused him. Not multiple people accused him. I mean, multiple people who confirmed that, like multiple testimonies that said that he was guilty, even though he wasn't. Like many people might have, because it's like, if she was a virgin, that just means that he didn't even sleep with them. Like obviously those Bahamian guys slept with those white women, obviously. And I'm not saying that, to continue on that joke against them. I'm more or less saying that, yeah, obviously they did. But the football player, it seems like he didn't even touch this lady. So what's the story behind why she would accuse this guy, and then why and how he could get locked up for it, especially if he's in football, where it's like usually the coach would vouch for him or try to defend his integrity, or something, or even try to fight the case. Why would how could you lose when you don't even sleep with this lady? Yoda B says, remember, believe all women. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, because it's actually harder to like back in the day. It was really this case that most people didn't even believe black women. So it's kind of like, what in the world? Like it's kind of like that Boondocks clip where it's like, what the guy say? He says, then I started thinking to myself, what did he do to make those people that mad? You know what I'm saying? like I don't know why. I don't know how you could possibly get convicted from not even thinking. Now, as far as the other story, yeah, those white women would just, rent to Rasta. They would just whatever. That's one of the problems that we have as a people, though. That as much as Buana was going on about these Black Americans have whore culture, they blah, blah, or that's whore culture. We shouldn't be the reality is that there's a lot of whore culture all over fucking Africa. There's a lot of whore culture all over Africa, all over the Caribbean, and it's all over America. Now, again, I would point out that in America they make it mainstream, and in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, they kind of make it low key. right? So one of the reasons why I wanted to leave Tanzania originally, like I was here for like a week, and I was like, I gotta go because I didn't know that horticulture was what it was. It's big thing here, okay? But I mean, obviously, it's not, you know, they're not broadcasting it around the world. Hey, look at us, we're whores. But it is what it is, right? But the rent to roster shit, that, you know, sex tourism shit, you know, Thailand shit, that's you know, but see, Thailand broadcasts it like a motherfucker. That's why every white boy knows about it, right? But the point is that yeah, we should practice more sexual discipline, but that part of that comes with developing your damn economy so that you're not relying on tourism and you're not relying on sex tourism. You know, we as a people just love tourism and sex tourism, and what it does is it ends up having the fucking sex tourists come to your country, and the sex tourists 9 times out of 10 are either these, you know, are crackers, and on top of being crackers, a lot of them are fucking pedophiles. Okay, a lot of them are pedophiles. So you're gonna see young boys, you're gonna see young girls, you're gonna see you know, young people selling their bodies to thing. I know as really said, I know this is the first time I'm not talking about. No, look, what I'm trying to say is that, look, when I was on my plane ride to Tanzania, this brother was telling me, you know, I was like, how do you handle, you know, basically I was approved right before I came to Tanzania, but it's like, you know, it's like when in Rome. You know what I mean? Like you cannot not be a part of the promiscuity unless you get married or some shit, you know, which is what I tried to do, you know, or what I did. But like, unless you're married, you got to be a part of the promiscuity brigade, because I didn't know this before, but apparently Tanzania is the most promiscuous country in East Africa. You know what I mean? I didn't know that, you know, in America. Most of us don't get to, you know, don't know much about African countries in America, but you know, it's like, what do you do now? Some people would, you know, would cap and be like, well, I'm just gonna do this. It's easier said than done, you know. It's easier said than done. But a long story short, what I'm saying is that when it comes to you know, these situations, yeah. If you're you know, we have to improve our economy so that we're not selling our bodies, because it's one thing for men to sell, for women to sell their bodies, which is not great. It's actually awful. It's terrible. But when you got men selling their bodies too, it means the people are hopeless. Because if anything, the big wage earners, you know, let's say traditionally, but the big wage earners would be the men. So if the men cannot get good income to the point where they have to sell their bodies to women, you know, that's all. That's the whole big difference.
I appreciate that. Kofi the critic came back. Kofi, what say you to what you've heard so far?
I really can't add much to this because me being not in the game, so to speak, you know, as far as like with bumping into women like this, I really can't speak to it. I mean, I've been married for over 20 years, so I wasn't in the dating game for so long, but I guess what I can add to this is pretty much basically when I was out there, you have to see that women are going to take advantage of how the system is, especially white women when they call rape. You know, that's how Tulsa Massacre happens. You know, that's how it happened to Rosewood, and so women know that that's something as egregious and despicable as that is. No one's going to question her. Right? So she always gets the benefit of the doubt. If you were to tell, if a woman said, hey, this person raped me or whatever, and you question them, let's be honest here, everyone's going to look at you like a despicable human being. So everyone is going to say, is always going to believe the woman. But what I can say is basically, if someone says something about sexual discipline, that's very important. You know, sleeping around, and you just have to be very vigilant. Like, again, when I was dating, there was a lot of malicious, sneaky women. I mean, you used to have a girlfriend that used to poke holes in the condom because she wanted kids from me, and I always used my condoms. And when we broke up, I was like, I asked her that because she always got upset when I had my own. She's like, no, use these instead. And when I told her, she started laughing. She's like, yeah, I poke holes in it. So you have to be very, very vigilant as young men and women. But in this particular case, right, especially men, because of the man, especially you're a black man, you do not get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to physical abuse and sexual abuse. That's pretty much it.
Appreciate that, Kofi. I'm going to mix it up a little bit here. Let's hear from Buana next. Buana, what say you?
Yes. So I want to make something very clear. I am not saying that African American culture is whore culture. I would never ever make that kind of statement. Never ever. I am a fan of people like Bobby Blue Blonde, Fats Domino, BB King. These are musical genres that I respect very much. I understand the innovation that goes into that, and I respect that music very much. I would align in terms of African American culture. When I say that, I think about people like Benjamin Banneker. I think about George Washington Carver. My sister right now is about to read a book called Up from Slavery. That is what's Coco? What's the name of Tuskegee University? Give me the name of this. Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington. This is when I think of African American culture, the innovation, to taking nothing and making something with it. The thinking culture, the innovative culture, the discipline that goes along the lines with that kind of perspective. That's what I tie to African American culture. You cannot tell me I don't consider that to be our culture. I don't consider that to be opening up your legs and exposing yourself to the world as a culture that any person should emulate. But these are the men and many women who I would say that I would want the world to emulate that kind of culture, because that's something that is the slave coming and coming from nothing and being able to develop himself to be the prominent person and figure through thought, through thinking, through innovation. That's what I want to tie along the lines of African American culture, not whore culture. So I'll make that very, very clear. Now, in terms of these Bahamian savages, who would have messed with these two American angels, I would say this. Now, anyone who knows anything about the Caribbean knows what happens in the Caribbean. They know what happens in the Caribbean. And sometimes these women have buyer's remorse. Sometimes they come with their different intentions to do certain things, really to get money. They're trying to extort people. They had a great time, but after the fact, they're trying to have their trip paid for, and they know that the government don't want that bad press. So instead of getting their bad press, they would pay big money in sweeping these kinds of issues under the table, even though these people were willing actors. This is what the modern media don't know, what goes on in these kinds of countries. And I think it's unfortunate, but Bahamian men and Caribbean men in general need to understand, even though these economies are what would be considered to be leisured economies of leisure, they need to understand that these women don't like, some of these women don't like you. Some of these women are trying to take advantage of you. Women can be predators too. I think the world is waking up to that reality, but women can be predators too. Yes, they could use their body and in turn try to extort you for money, put you in court, put allegations on you for their own benefit. Women can be predators too. And I think that that's what is forgotten from these kinds of discussions. They're not only innocent angels, they can be predatory as well. Like as Willie say, some of the brothers need to practice semen retention, dick discipline. Say no sometimes. Just because a woman who is beautiful sponsors you, don't mean you need to engage in these kinds of engagements with her. because there may be a nefarious intent on her part. Yes, women can be predatorial as well. We live in the modern age now. Women think and they use their minds and they use their bodies for different reasons. And I'm not saying that all women are predatorial. Yes, some things happen in the Bahamas that shouldn't happen. Women get abused from time to time. But women are human beings and they can be predatorial as well. So if you must engage in these kinds of particular instances, like I say, get it on camera, get it in writing, protect yourself. If you must do these things, protect yourself. Protect yourself. Cover your own ass. But I'll leave it there, Cuckoo.
Of course, Chris Rock said something. I don't want to do this sexual divide, but you got to understand women are more mature and smarter than men, right? So Chris Rock, during his stand-up, he says, who's the biggest liars, men or women? And of course, all the men saying women and all the women saying men. And Chris Rock is shaking head. He's like, no. You guys don't get to understand. Men tell the most lies, but women are the biggest liars. He said a man's lie is like, I'm at Craig's house. A woman's lie is, it's your baby. That's the difference.
And that's a big one.
It is.
So I intentionally did this. We have one black woman on the panel tonight. That's Angie, the ENTJ. I wanted her to hear everyone's responses, all the guys' response, and any comments from the chat. And I'd like to give you time to unpack this and tell us your thoughts on what we saw in that video.
Okay. I guess I have to keep it brief. Schemers and scammers and liars exist everywhere, and they definitely should be held accountable. They should be charged with lying, with perjury, and punished to the full extent of the law. Now, a bit of a disclaimer here, because I want to be careful. I often see in situations like this where the scammers, who I just said should be held fully accountable for their misdeeds, sometimes what they've done can be over amplified as a way to diminish the numerous victims who have been legitimately subjected to violence, women and men alike. I mean, see what's happening in the news lately with Diddy and somewhat and so forth. So that said, I do take a bit, I do have some questions, particularly when it comes to the football player. There's a lot of background that I needed to have. Where did these allegations arise from? Was it in a party situation? And also, I see things like this happen where the women in this young man's life may have forewarned him, don't hang with her. She's not good. And he ignores her. And the very things that the women in his life tried to forewarn him about, now he's seeing in the worst way. So I don't know if that was the case with him, but I have seen it firsthand in other situations. In terms of the Bahamas, again, I think that it's okay to figure out different ways to have fun. Fun doesn't have to mean some random sexual activity with someone you just met and barely know. And I think that's where these kind of situations arise. If it was a situation where the man was just coming in and cleaning the room and then all of a sudden they're accusing him, I think he would have had a better, I don't know, alibi, or I don't know how to describe it, but he would have had it wouldn't have got so far. It wouldn't have gotten so far. That's what I'm trying to get at. So, yeah, what these young women did, and I use that term loosely, they should be held fully accountable. It's wrong, especially for the young man who had his reputation ruined, who lost opportunities all because of a lie. I think that, that she should be punished for that, and anybody else who helped to facilitate that. But at the same time, I think, yes, it's safe to get things on camera and protect yourself in that regard. And also rethink having fun. It doesn't have to be random sexual activity. You can have fun in different ways. I was brought up not to have random sexual activity. I do that in marriage. I've been married for 7 years now.
I would like, and I hear what Angie's saying, but I'm curious about her husband, she's been married to for 7 years, because I'm listening to this and I'm hearing her perspective, and it is a legitimate female's perspective. But if I was, let's say, a 21-year-old man, right, and I worked in the hotel industry before, and sometimes tourists do outrageous things. Sometimes you go to their rooms, they answer the door in the nude. They answer the door with no clothes on, Angie. They do ridiculous things, man. They do ridiculous things. And I'm saying to myself, as a young person whose brain is not properly formed and developed yet, it's very difficult to practice the discipline that you're talking about. It's extremely, you don't know, especially, and then they get drunk, and then they proposition you. They grab you at the, they pull off your belt and try to take your pants. Angie, I'm telling you, as a person who live in the Bahamas, who's worked in the tourism industry before, I can tell you the things that actually occur. It would have you God smacked. It have you with your mouth open. I promise you. And I understand what you're saying, but it's extremely difficult to tell a 21-year-old man in terms of having discipline with the ridiculous things that some of these women carry on with. They're not little angels like like they pretend to be when the camera is on them. I promise you, sister. I promise you, man.
I'm a woman and I know other women, and I know that there are women who do behave this way. They're not the majority of us, but I don't deny that they exist. However, I mean, I was 21 years old too, and men do things too. You know, what I would say in that situation is this is when you have to be an adult, son. Now, I'm not calling you a son, but if I had a son, that's what I would be saying to him. You got to, don't go there by yourself. Always have witnesses. Go in 2s and 3s. Okay. And make sure you don't get caught up, because I'm not about to pay for you.
I hear you. I hear that. I hear that.
I have had my, things are informal with African Americans. When compared to like other groups of people, like my great grandmother in our community, she was kind of like an informal person that people would come and bring their issues to. And I remember seeing countless women crying because their sons had got locked up or got caught up into some mess and lost their lives. And every single case, it was a situation where she told them, don't do it. Don't do this, don't do that. And he did it anyway. So that's what came to mind with my response when I said what I said. Fun doesn't have to include having sexual activity or being in shady situations where you can get caught up. You can have fun in different ways and then go home.
Well, if there's no last thoughts there, that's the show for this week. I want to thank everyone who participated on the panel tonight. New folks like Angie, the ENTJ came through. More frequent, more recent folks like Kofi, the Black Critic came through. I appreciate all you guys. Before you guys go, though, I'd like to get you to give a something positive that you saw or witnessed in the Black world this past week. So let's start with Kofi.
Wow. I really haven't really seen anything of noteworthy, but I'm gonna say to everyone, keep doing the best that you can and keep holding your head up high, and pretty much that's it.
Appreciate that. Kofi, Azuliism, what about you?
I'm sorry?
No, I'm talking to Azuliism.
Oh, okay.
guess Azuya isn't there.
Nah, I'm here. I ain't hear nothing positive, so this is a positive show. Later.
All right. Thank you. Peace. Oni, what you want to shout out this week?
I'm gonna shout out my book again. That's my positivity. So like I said, I published a book called Wanga Lethal. I'm pretty excited. I got 4 sales so far, so that's 4 people, and that's pretty cool. So that's pretty much it. That's my positive for the day, and for maybe indefinitely. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be purchasing it this week as well. So you're calling me there. With that said, let's hear from Real Black Gentleman. What you want to shout out this week?
I just want to shout out what's his name, the mayor of Baltimore, Scott. Way he's holding it down in the midst of all this nonsense. They trying to blame, you know what I'm saying, the incident on him. You know what I'm saying? Thank goodness, you know what I'm saying, no disaster really happened, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, a couple people, you know what I'm saying, lost their lives, you know what I'm saying? Brother holding it down, you know what I'm saying, just representing it, you know, shaking off the haters. That's, you know what I'm saying? I think that's positive.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, RBG. Angie, the ENTJ, what would you like to shout out this week?
Well, I'll just stick it to the show. I'm glad to. First, I was glad to have been invited, and then also, it was good to be in a situation where there's not like a shouting match going on. So I think that's positive in and of itself, and it shows progression. So I'll just keep it there.
I appreciate it. Please don't be a stranger. It was great having you come through.
Oh, thank you.
I bet all the fellas and everyone in the chat would say you were a great addition tonight. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Yes, welcome.
You're welcome. Yes. Last but not least, I guess that's Buana's left. Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
Oh, okay. So shout out first. Let me shout out Angie for coming on in the den of a bunch of men and holding her own tonight. You know, she did contribute very well. I think that she made a great addition in terms of her contributions tonight and her ideas.
Yo, nigga, stop flirting. This nigga stay flirting.
Why, I don't know why is this Haitian calling me? Why is this Haitian calling me a nigga?
Married.
I don't understand why this Haitian man is calling me a nigga. Let me just say this. So I appreciate her coming on and giving a contribution to the show. Shout out to all the sisters like Raw, Itol, you know, my sister from Jamaica. You know, she listens with her community as well. So it's not just her. When you hear her, she also has a community listening as well. Shout out to Matron. I got to shout out to sisters. Matron, anyone under the sound of my voice, go to the Revolutionary Matron. She is waging a revolutionary war in terms of audiobooks. In terms, she's about to read Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was a very pivotal figure within the Black community in terms of what he would have done. And I think that anyone under the sound of my voice, if you are in the kitchen cooking food, if you're doing work at night, you know, at your desk, if you just, you know, doing certain things around the house, cut on the Matron at 7 o'clock, and just listen to her readings. They're very insightful, and you come up with different kinds of epiphanies when you listen to the things that she says, because the things she says, she's reaching in the past and talking about the ideas of historical figures, what they would have thought about in terms of building their communities, the strategies that they would have created. Just listen to have it playing in the background when you're cooking your food, you know, when you're doing work. These things feed your mind because it's fundamentals, fun to mental. You're feeding your mind with good mental food when you listen to her and her reading audiobooks of the different writers and thinkers of the past. That's the first thing I want to take care of. The second thing I want to take care of is shout out to Oni. Shout out to Oni, my good brother, Oni Tassetti. You know, a physicist within the community. He is a great Pan-Africanist. He's a writer of books. He is a traveler. He is a Pan-African. He is a a businessman, an entrepreneur. He goes all over the world. He's doing his thing right now. Shout out to that young man. And I applaud his efforts in doing what he's doing right now. Shout out to the book that he has written, the recent book. You know, these are things that shouldn't be swept under the rug. And anyone under the sound of my voice should purchase one of his books. He's writing extensively, and he is the future, whether we believe it or not. He is the future. And he is pulling the pages from the past, and he is writing in a way that the younger people could grasp onto the things that he says. And I'm gonna tell you, in the future, people gonna be talking about Onita Seri. You know, people gonna be talking about him. You know, so get him while you can. You know, try to grasp as much as possible from the things that he thinks about as much as you can, because in the future, people will be talking about Onita Seri like they talk about Amos Wilson and all our elderly scholars. You know, so I say that, you know, congratulations to him in his new book and in his new endeavors. Shout out to my brother Zuli and all these other guys. I am waiting for his next movie to come out. I don't know why he is not coming out with his next movie yet. Maybe he's waiting for Wyclef or something like that. But shout out to all the innovators and the thinkers and the Black world in their endeavors and doing what they do.
Yo,
So
don't flirt with me now, man. Don't flirt with me now. Stop.
I'll leave it there, and I just go ahead, Koku. Just, you know, you can take it from there, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. So I'm not gonna be around next Saturday. So the show can go on. Someone else can host the show. I can give you access to the StreamYard and help put the topics together and stuff like that. So if you're interested, hit me up on the Discord or hit me on email, bitter.medicine.podcast@gmail.com. Let me know by Wednesday or so we could really set the thing up if we're going to do it. But if we don't get to do a show next week, I'll be back the following week. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday nights. So you guys make sure you tune in. Thanks to everyone who was here tonight in the chat and on the panel. Until next time, you guys be good. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.